No, 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 no! Ah!
Hi, this is Dale Lear, designer of TRS-80 Color Baseball, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
This is CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color computer. It's time to drop your socks, grab your real-time clocks, and let's rock.
CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world.
Welcome to CoCoTALK, episode 289. Today is Nick Marentes' Jumping Joey launch party.
CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world.
Hello, everybody. And how many could hear the sirens out there?
Nope.
Nope. That's why you didn't do the voiceover. You were going to get drowned out.
No, I did do the voiceover.
Yeah, it just didn't go to Zoom. It went
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
yeah, because if I turn it on Zoom, we end up with the loop.
Ah, gotcha.
So I think anyway, we end up with a loop. Okay, let's see who was foolish enough to join us today. Lower right-hand corner, we have the man from down under, Nick Marentes.
Oh, I'm first today. Good day,
You're
everyone.
first today. Next up, we got David Ladd.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I hope you enjoy this episode because it's going to be a creep of a time.
And
We're sorry.
Next over, we got Alan, Exile in Paradise.
Wait, this isn't the DMV? Hold on. Where am I? Howdy, howdy.
Can I ask
everyone.
you to take a number?
You're on a peninsula on that line between north and south.
Ah, okay.
That's the Twilight Zone, isn't it?
And last on the bottom row, the man with the can, Coco Man, Jason.
I've got my Diet Dr. Pepper, and I'm ready to go.
Ah, good. Diet Dr. Pepper levels confirmed.
Ooh, yes.
We are good for Dr. Pepper.
We have
And okay, next over, Terry Steggy.
Hey, everybody, welcome.
And welcome back to the show.
Welcome
Well,
back.
Good to see you here,
Great
Terry.
to see you.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be back.
Let's see.
We'll ask you again
Wrong.
in 5 minutes.
Next up, Ron Delvo.
Hey, I've got my diet water here, and I'm doing fine.
On the other half of the David Ladd. Ah,
Yeah, let's see. Next up, L. Curtis Boyle.
Welcome to the show, everyone. We're going to have a hopping good time. Oh, wait, I mean jumping good time today.
And we're thankful.
All right. Next up, Grant Leedy.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see you guys.
So, at least you're not in town, so I'm safe for another day.
right? Wherever you are means there's no tornado where I'm at.
Yeah, everybody's
That's
up,
right.
everybody's up in New York right now chasing the 6 feet of snow up there in Buffalo. So,
Yeah, that's nothing.
And they're welcome to it.
yep.
Have fun, folks.
All right. Top row, right-hand corner. Yours truly. How you doing? Next up, Rick Euland.
Howdy, folks.
Howdy.
Okay. And with the Game On Challenge, Sloopy.
Greetings and sanitations. I also have my diet water, and I'm ready to go.
It looks like you need a refill. And last but not least, Marco.
Hey, glad to be here, and I'm last.
Yeah, I decided to flip it up this time. Flip it up, flip it over, whatever.
That's what happens when you start with an Australian.
Everything's all upside down.
And howdy to everyone who showed up in the chat. Look at this.
Well, let's see. Oh, wow. Okay.
List. We got what? Kevin Holloway, Tom Eric Gunderson,
Buck Owens.
Yeah. There's this Can Make It guy. Oh, no.
Jim Rye.
N6IL. OG.
Whatever happened to Samuel Gimes?
OG Hugo.
Wayland. Brian Walsh.
That Gimes guy. Flaky.
That Gimes guy.
You think so?
I think he's hiding in a bunker somewhere.
I think he's creating an entire album for you, Ron.
Yeah. I'm anxiously waiting.
Yeah, he's like sitting around waiting for inspiration.
Oh, please, can we have one? Oh, please.
Obviously, Ron is drunk today.
Oh, please.
So convincing.
Mark Siegel, howdy, howdy.
You don't know what's in my diet water, do you?
Howdy, howdy. Tim Linder.
It's vodka?
Just let's see. Say hi to Frank.
Lots of people in chat, so thanks for joining us, guys and gals.
Mine was white rum. That's why it's almost empty.
Wasn't that a song in the White Room?
Let's see. First up, I think we're going to go into the game on results today.
Yep. Now we should mention Canadian Retro Things is not here because his internet went down earlier in the week, from what I understand, and it was supposed to be fixed yesterday, but didn't.
Damn squirrels.
So.
Is that because he lives in that log cabin?
No, he's back in BC again. So.
Oh,
he should have been in the cabin.
Yeah, he at least had internet in the cabin, as primitive and slow as it was.
Cabin net was better than what he's had this week.
Oh, I wish that thing wouldn't pop up and go over top of all the screens, but okay.
First world problems.
This button right here. This is the one we need.
Welcome to the CoCoTALK Game On Challenge. Not live. Sorry, it's what I'm used to. This week we played the 141st edition of the CoCoTALK Game On Challenge, where we played Stinger. And we played with 16 pilots. In 16th place, Exile in Paradise, 0.
What?
15th place, Ron Delvaux with 30.
I thought I was in first.
14th place,
last.
Damon Beals with 1126. 13th place, Mark B with 1174. 12th place, Jim Rye.
Yeah, I'm not last.
1222. 11th place, Paul Shoemaker with 1456. 10th place, Loopy Malibu, late as usual, with 1550. 9th place, Sabhead with 1696. 8th place, Shenley with 1860. 7th place, Justin Larson with 2068. 6th place, Rich N with 2406. 5th place, Brian Walsh with 2942. 4th place, Mr. Dave 6309 with 3,194. And the top three and third place, Asman with 3202. Second place, Buck Owens with 3776. And the number one player this week is the man, the myth, the legend himself, David Ladd with 4,086. Thank you for
Wow,
playing.
great
And join
job.
us next week when we'll be playing.
Something new.
Something old.
Something else.
My score was actually
Something blue?
350 or something, not 30.
Oh, sorry.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're going to have
Might
to
as
file
well
a
be
grievance
30.
with the Academy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we should mention for the game Stinger, it was discovered that there was a bug in the version that's on the archive. I don't know if it's in the original or not. I don't have the original to compare with, but basically the game just stopped after level 3, I understand, and I think Mr. Dave patched it to fix that. Is that correct?
I have no idea. I didn't get
Mr.
that
Dave
far.
patched it, and apparently the cassette version had the same bug, so it wasn't just like a move to disk thing or something. But yeah, he got all crazy with the hex editor and found where the level was supposed to be stored, and figured out the one branch that needed to be changed, poked it, and it worked. And in the Game On Challenge Discord this week, you kind of get the blow-by-blow description of, wait, what's it doing? Why can't anyone get past 3? Oh, look at this, blah, blah, blah. So it was kind of cool to watch. And then he kept putting in all these weird little patches with poke numbers and stuff. So
yeah, I know he did the Coco 3 RGB palette swaps and stuff too, which we'll probably see in the live game play footage, or some of David's maybe. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. This has happened a few times before where a bug's been found, like Grabber had a problem, it wouldn't run on a 6 or 9, so a bunch of us went together and tried to figure out what the heck was going on and patched it on the fly during the week. So we're 40 years after the fact, debugging other people's programs. Awesome.
I never hit the bug. It wasn't an issue for me.
My programs don't have bugs.
Yeah, what bug?
Just jumpy screens. Mind you, that fits with the Jumping Joey theme, but we'll get into that later.
It's funny when something stops like that. It doesn't matter how much you hit the computer; it doesn't continue. Unlike old TV, when the channel was wacky and bad at once, and there it is.
Oh, so is this the bug that happens? Because this is as far as I got before I fell asleep.
yes,
That's
it
where it
stops
just
at level 3.
Okay, cool. So
And when you change the branch, so for the programmer types out there, there was a signed branch test instead of an unsigned branch test. And once you change the BLT to BLO, the levels will flow.
That is a bug I've done multiple times myself, more than I'd care to admit.
Yep.
So would you get rid of the tomato and put the orange in?
Now I want a BLT.
Yeah.
All right, for anybody on the panel here that has played the game, like I didn't get the chance to play it this week, but I have played it in the past. As far as I know, it's an original game. It's got some themes that are from a couple others. It's kind of got the Star Castle rotating shield type thing. And then it's got the kind of dodge 'em or whatever the other name of the other game that's kind of a clone of it is, where you're collecting the dots and switching between tracks.
Yeah, slot racing games, but definitely rethemed.
Oh, you mean like dodge 'em?
Yeah, like I didn't I mention that? It's kind of a dodge 'em Star Castle mixture type thing. It's dodge 'em for the gameplay appearance of Star Castle style.
Yeah, all I have to say is after level 4, it's evil. It cheats. The things go through the walls and yet you can't. It's irritating.
I think you're the only one who got that far, David.
I kind of like the David Ladd version, though, that it was a floppy disk. You either had the defrag or fix the stray fluxes.
When your little guy got in the center, there was very little room for it to come out of that little hole.
it was easiest to play if you did like a drive and head to the middle first. So when you start speeding up, you're on them big long tracks.
Yeah, instead of trying to jump around those. Yeah, I remember that from when I played it. I know. I remember I played it back in few years back, and I didn't get great at it. I obviously didn't hit the level 3 bug. But it was a fun game for me. It was a nice combination of a couple of arcade classics into basically an original style game.
It made more sense when I started drinking my diet water.
So other than patching it, is there any other tips and tricks that people have?
Usually I found for me, if you needed to move faster on the outside, move all the way to the inside, get to the approximate angle that you wanted to be on the outside, then move back out, because you obviously move faster on the inner ring than on the outer ring.
What did he say? Is he talking floppies again, is he?
Coco Man figured it out.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I found that the speeds of everything were unpredictable. You know, the enemies and yourself kept varying a lot.
Well, it depended on how many thingies were on the screen.
Yeah, because it's like Space Invaders. The more of the things you collected, in the case Space Invaders you shot, the faster everything else gets, right? I remember.
Probably because I had less to keep up with, so we could process faster.
That's what I'm figuring.
I thought it was a lot better than some games, you know, usually up and down, left and right. This was circle. Kind of fun. A little different.
Now, the controls were a bit different from what I remember, and I think you guys commented on it. I caught a little brief part of the stream there, but isn't it you move the joystick left to go in the ring and right to go out or something like that, no matter where on the circle you are, so it's not quite intuitive?
Yeah. It's relative to the player on the screen. So left goes in the ring and right goes out the ring. So no matter where you are, looking over top, you have to think of yourself as in the player on the screen.
Okay. Yeah. So for example, if you got a hole and you're at the top of the screen, your intuition would be move it down to go down through the hole, but you actually have to move it left to right to.
You have to have played one of those old top-down racing games. At the point
Actually, if you just start playing the game, you figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because nothing's happening if you're moving it in different directions.
Or if you've driven around the beltway around any large city. I mean, east and west, they're marked east and west, even though they go north and south in some places.
Right.
Washington, D.C. has a big one.
So for the user on the panel that actually did play it as part of the challenge, then did you guys take a while to get used to the controls, or was that fairly 5 minutes I got it down, or
minute or two and you got it down? Because I mean, you have to remember is that especially people who've been playing a lot of overhead racers, you get used to it real quick.
Okay.
I think it would have been really neat if we'd had a cockpit view.
Oh, yeah.
So that you're flying around and making like your
person.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But then you can't see where anything else is in the maze. You'd be dying a lot.
Yeah.
And quick reactions.
The microscopic map in the corner of the screen.
Yeah, that would make it a driving simulator.
Yeah. So what did you guys think of the game? Like, I liked it back when I played it back in the day. I thought it was kind of a neat cross assembly of a couple different games into a unique product that was actually fun and fairly original in that combination. What did you guys think, or am I blowing it too high?
I actually liked it. I mean, I think it's a decent game with an okay implementation. I mean, as David said, it does have some collision detection issues, but overall, it's a really good game and it's a really nice concept.
What's the name of the game again?
Stinger.
And how does that fit into the circle and things?
Well, it's supposed to be a beehive, and it's a head bee, queen bee in the center, and it's all the little worker bee drones or whatever that are flying around.
Yeah, I don't know.
You get your premise where you can.
I would have named it something else.
But is it in space?
But it also kind of reminds me of Adam as well, which is why it was very easy for me to acclimate to the controls, because Adam, you got to move either direction, and then you went in and out and stuff to move the
atoms and stuff around to make molecules.
Yeah. But in this case, it was you just used one direction to move in and out, and that wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Like it's been so long since I played it, but I do remember the controls caught me a little off guard too, and I can't remember the reason I never got to level 3 to see the bug was because I just wasn't acclimated to the controls yet, or if I just didn't play it long enough to push it that far.
You didn't play enough driving games.
One thing I will have to check though is I had a copy of this like years and years ago, way before the Color Computer Archive had, and I wonder if mine has that bug too. It's not a legal copy, unfortunately, but it's possible I might have a version that doesn't have that bug unless that bug was in the game the whole time.
Well, for me, the other thing too is with the joystick. If you get where you don't like the left and right, you can always turn the joystick so that way you're just pushing forward and back.
Yeah. Do you think it would be a game playable since it only uses one axis? Would that be a decent game for a paddle?
Probably not, because a paddle would be for like moving a linear bar.
Yeah,
In
right.
this
Because you have to
case,
jump
you're
the whole paddle all the way one side to the other. Yeah, you're right.
right. And in this case, it would probably be a simple 2-button game, like in, out. So you can make a digital stick that's just in, out. This would be one of those games that if you had it in the arcade, it'd just be a 2-button game.
Okay.
So now we need a 3-button game since we've already had a 1-button game, and now a 2-button game with no other controls. So the Halloween game was a 1-button game.
Yep.
Well, next week's game does fit the button theme.
Has anybody ever put together a list of all the different hacker people that put their name on the software and said that they cracked it?
There was actually, ironically enough, there was a guy who contacted me by email from my game site probably 4 or 5 years ago that actually was asking for all the CoCo hackers because he wanted to compile a list for all the various 8-bit micros out, all the different hacker teams and stuff.
Yeah,
and I pointed to him a few screenshots on my site that had a few of them there, but I don't have a list per se.
Did he by chance work for this place called FBI?
No. No, otherwise I would have gotten a letter or something.
I always thought it was coolest to see the hacker put his, that he's real happy or proud that he busted the game for everybody to play.
I mean, I did a little bit of that myself back in the day. I don't remember what all my hacker
what was your name?
plumes were, but as once I started doing the game site itself there, I kind of regretted it because I want to give credit to the original authors that took all the time to write the game. So there's a few DICOM games, for example, I've actually reversed it back to the original one because I happen to have the original disc, but it's heavily copy protected. And rather than having to re-break it from scratch, I just took the pirated one and then just changed the the load screen and something.
And also a shout out to Canadian Retro Things in the audience.
Is he slumming it with a phone, or is he at Burger King at the free Wi-Fi, or what's he doing?
I think he might be at the coffee shop. I hope I'm not messing up your game on too bad.
Yeah, because Ken wasn't even able to make it to the live show for the Game On Challenge either because of his internet problems, right?
Right, that's correct.
Yeah, I'm guessing probably the attendance probably wasn't that good because Ken wasn't there to bring the people in.
Absolutely. I mean, they're all there to see Ken, not me.
And I was busy hunting down a Nitrous 9 EOU bug that I thought I'd already fixed, and turned out that I didn't, but I did find it. So, still hoping I'm going to be on schedule for release by December 1st.
You can do it. I have faith in you.
Well, right now I'm waiting for some other people to get some stuff here. So there's a few people and a couple of things I'm just waiting for some final testing on.
Shoot, that's next week.
Don't scare me like that.
Yeah.
Any other tips and tricks for the game here, or any other comments on Stinger?
Don't die.
Nick, have you ever tried the one before back in the day? You're a game designer. I was wondering what you thought of the game.
No, I've never seen that game.
Oh, okay. It's an earlier one. It came out in '82, so it's fairly early on, even before the CoCo 2 was released by a year.
I wasn't around then.
You're too young.
Well, if there's no other further comments on that game, thank you, Sloopy, for hosting the Game On Challenge solo this past week, and also for hosting the actual segment today.
Mm-hmm. Well, you did most of the hosting. I just stood here and was a wallflower.
Well, somebody has to be pretty on the show. It sure as hell ain't me.
Ain't me either.
But I believe that you said because Ken was not able to select a game because he didn't have internet here, I believe you have picked up the reins here and you've got a game. You said you've been waiting for 2 years to get on the challenge.
Yeah. Wow. No, actually, I was joking when I said I wanted to play Spectaculator.
Darn. I had actually had a chance of getting a good score on that one.
Better be a good one.
So let me share my screen here.
Pretty ominous, Ron.
As you can see. And oh, nothing? No, let's fix that.
Oh, we're playing Windows Desktop this week, everyone.
Windows Desktop I have that game.
There.
Wait, no, I don't.
And it's
Nick has a better trash can.
The game is Panic Button.
Oh, that's one actually we just had a video on last week. That's a good choice.
Yeah, I figured it was fitting. And I mean, 1 button, 2 button, Panic Button. It goes together.
Yep. This is a cool game. It was originally released in 1983 by First Star Software, I believe it was. And then Tandy liked it so much they ended up picking up the rights. I don't know if Mark was involved with that or not. And they ended up selling it as a cartridge 2 years later. So it actually got into Radio Shack stores. One of the rare ones that was sold beforehand.
Yes, which reminds me, there's several reasons why this is being chosen. And one of them is because this coming Thursday is evidently a holiday in the United States. Which I think is like Thanksgiving or something. You know, that October.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you guys do it way late when we were there covered in snow. That's why we do ours early.
Yeah. So this Thursday, there will not be a Game On Challenge live.
No.
So instead of coming on and playing, you can just hit your panic button and say, I need my live Game On Challenge. So
now, would you consider doing a reschedule in case people do want to participate live together, like say Wednesday night or something, or not available?
I won't be here Wednesday evening, and I won't be here until late Thursday night. And
I mean, I guess if Ken gets his internet back by then, maybe he could give it a shot. But if he can't, I mean, there's nothing you guys can do. So
and I don't want to smack my minion around and make demands of him and tell him he has to be here Thursday night. So.
My minion, you're talking about Ken?
No, I'm talking about Jim Rye. I'm Ken's minion. Jim Rye's my minion.
Glad to know we have a hierarchy here.
Yeah, I mean, you know how it goes. It flows downhill.
So we do it the old-fashioned way, or?
Yeah, you just do it the same way as all those. I don't want to say. Yeah, well.
Just don't do it the old-fashioned Nick Marentes way, where you just Photoshop your scores. That's being lazy.
Yeah, and all those
what's wrong
people
with that?
aren't cool enough to come on the show.
Now, for those that have never played Panic Button before, Sleepy, I'm assuming you have?
No, I actually have not.
Oh, okay. Has anybody else on the panel played it before?
I can't say I've ever seen it.
Nobody? Wow.
I've seen a video of it played.
Because we should explain the premise of the game because it may not be completely obvious.
I figured the name is self-explanatory.
Well, basically what you're doing is you're on an assembly line and you've got a timer and you've got a specific number of orders to build things to put together. So you get everything, it comes in chunks. And they're always in sets of 3 that you have to lay on top of each other to build it. Like you can see on the upper right screenshot there, you can see a robot, you can see a pie or a cake. And I can't remember what the third shape is, a telephone booth or something. But basically you get a head, the arms, and the legs on the first one, for example. And they come in random order and they get dropped from these chutes, which you can see in the lower right screenshot. So you have to run around, pick up the pieces and put them in the right order, then get them onto the very bottom of the screen to be completed. You got a couple little holding areas, which are the little flat platforms you can put stuff on to store it temporarily. But you got these conveyor belts. So once they come out the chutes, they're moving. So you have to like kind of run around and move them at the same time and put them in. And if you have too many robots built wrong or you run out of time, you die type thing, you get fired actually. So it is a panic button thing. Now there's a panic button you can see in the lower right screenshot up in the upper right corner. So if things are just getting too hectic for you, you can run up there and press the button and that stops all the conveyors for a few seconds. You can try to kind of like gather everything back up and get back to it, but it gets faster and faster. You have to get more and more done. It starts coming out in terrible order where you might get like 6 sets of legs and then one head and then no torsos for a while or something like that. So it gets to be quite challenging.
I mean,
And
this is
it's,
my life from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Hey, you should do great on this one then, right?
Mhm.
You should be a natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm predicting high score by Mark Bosley this week. Holy cow.
Yeah. He has real world experience. You know how they're always asking for 15 years experience for something that's only been around for 5 or 10.
Yeah. Now this game ramps up the difficulty fairly quickly. So I don't think we need to start, like you can see in the upper right corner, you can pick a start level 1, 3, or 7. I think we should just start on 1 because it ramps up pretty fast. It's not like you'll be hanging around and just
Does anyone have the cartridge to show what it looks like?
I do, but it's not at a place I can get to at the moment. It's kind of a purplish.
Is it
Terry
black?
Steggy, I'm pretty sure, has it. He's got almost as much stuff as Brian Weasler, I think.
Yeah. And I agree with Exile in Paradise. It reminds me of the old episode of Lucy, where her and her friend are doing the assembly line with the chocolates, and she starts eating them because she's not getting it done in time.
It's like that Vegemin or whatever the I Love Lucy show did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Veggie vitamin. Yeah.
So.
Anyway, that's a good choice. It's an original game as far as I know. I don't think that's a cross-platform game.
There it
anywhere
is.
else. There it is. Zoom them up, Mr. Mark.
Oh, hang on. Damn Zoom. There we go.
Big smile there, Terry. Big smile.
Oh, break the camera. Pull her out here.
Big smile. And
now, if anybody's a real collector, if you actually have the original disc or tape version back when it was an independent, I would love to see that. I've never seen that. I've only seen the Tandy one. But I do remember the ads.
Terry, what's that machine on your left? What am I seeing there?
Oh, the
This
robot.
guy here, that's
No.
my SX.
Yeah, that. What is it?
It's a 1000 SX.
Oh, okay.
I want to know why he has a halo of Sega.
That was my first video game other than the CoCo. So
68K in it. Not so bad.
Anyway, it's a good game. I have had a lot of fun with it. I'm going to try to make it onto the Game On Challenge this week myself. So I will try to participate in that one. CoCo 1 and 2 required. I think it only needs, the cartridge version only needs 16K. It probably needs 32K for playing off disc or the SDC. Single button joystick. Artifact colors. I mean, I'm sure Mr. Dave can patch it for the CoCo 3 RGB because it's one of the pure artifact color ones. So it should actually translate quite well with the patch.
Wow.
So I expect that.
Wow, I'm impressed. When you use the L. Curtis Boyle website for games, L. Curtis Boyle himself comes on and does it for you.
Yeah, I just read verbatim what I wrote in my site because I don't remember anything.
Well, that's what I was going to do. So,
no, I chimed in on this one because this is actually a game I do like, and I have played it quite a bit. Not recently, but I used to play it quite a bit back in the day.
yeah, it was basically it was. I was looking at a couple possibilities, and this was recommended to me. And when I read it, it seemed to fit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's not going to be an official Game On challenge this week, but maybe Monday or Tuesday night, if enough people are in the Discord and just playing, maybe we'll do an impromptu Game On challenge live. Depends on how it goes and how many people are around.
Yeah. I mean, if Ken gets his internet back, we could try doing one too. So,
And there's also Friday.
You better take that up with Ken.
what did I mean? I'm since I don't live in the States, I'm trying to recall here. Like, I know some of my clients that are in the States, they actually take the whole 4 days off for Thanksgiving. Is that fairly common, or do most people take the Thursday, then work Friday, then come back?
Well,
Usually Friday's off.
Yeah, usually Friday is off, depending, unless you like work in retail or something, then you'll usually have to come in. And
Then you'll work your ass off that day.
Yeah, you work your
It's
ass
Black
off.
Friday, right?
And some companies are actually open Thanksgiving evening.
Okay.
I personally will
Some
not work.
restaurants. Yeah.
Yeah, I personally won't work. usually around that time because there's another holiday that coincides with it. So, but yeah, it's most like business offices and such are closed to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But if you work retail or something like, or like a service industry, yeah, you'll be busting
Busier
your
than ever,
butt
yeah.
all weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, no, I was just wondering because, like I said, some of my clients actually take the whole 4 days off. One does not, so I didn't know how common it was for other industries.
Yeah. So
okay, well, thank you very much, Sleepy, and good pick. That's a game I do like. I will try my darndest to get on it.
This game has a good attract mode.
Yeah, it's got a whole bunch of things flying around the screen, so it's not a boring like here's a title screen, here's a high score screen type thing. It's well animated.
Yeah. So, and back to you, Mark B.
Oh, gee. Alrighty.
I guess we'll go on to the game on news, and then we can have the big reveal. Or do you want an ad commercial first?
Yeah, we could run the PSA first.
Okay, that'll give me a chance to refill my coffee because I did finish.
Okay.
You are watching CoCoTALK, the world's leading weekly video podcast, featuring the Tandy Color computer. We spread the love to the past, present, and future for all models, including the original color computer, the CoCo 3, and the world-renowned exclusive French-Canadian CoCo 2, the Radio Shack.
CoCoTALK would like to thank the patrons who sponsor our program, so our heartfelt gratitude goes out to Alan Huffman, Alan Murphy, Blair Ledoux, Brendan Donahue, Brian Walsh, Brian Weasler, Karen Anscombe, D. Bruce Moore, Daddy Burrito, Diego, Eric Canales, Glenn Hewlett, Graham Vebke, Grant Leedy, Grant B., Henry Strickland, J. Style, Justin Larson, Ken Reichert, Malfunct, Melly, Mike Rayburn, OG Hugo, Rick Hewlin, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Rob Inman, Rocky Hill, Stephen Wagner, Steve Batson, Terry Steen, The Backyard Shed Gang, Tim Thayer, Tom C., Tom Gunderson, Tom S., Tony C., and William Athing. Thank you ever so much, patrons.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Who's New to Discord This Week?
Daggerath says, I know, Daggerath. An all too common name in the Tandy crowd, right? Anyways, my name is Ben V. My dad bought a CoCo 2, floppy drive, multi-pack, touch book and tape drive. I played Dungeons of Daggerath typically at least once a year. I asked my dad if he still had all the CoCo stuff and he did. I have it now and cleaning it up. I did buy a CoCo 3 so I could have the added benefits of the extra RAM and such. I found this place just with a Google search for Tandy CoCo Discord. The previous bios were edited for time, thanks to CoCo Man, Boys in Tech, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Nightbeard, Glenside Computer Club and the CoCoTALK patrons for boosting the server. Please consider joining Discord and visiting the welcome section to read these bios in full and see what the community has to offer. Just go to discord.cocotalk.live.
See y'all on Discord!
Welcome back, everyone. So our theme for today's show is a brand new game release by none other than Nick Marentes, who's actually awake at this early hour in Australia. Because of course he is. He has to make some money to buy some more cars.
Yeah, right.
So with a little fanfare, we'll let Nick talk about it, but this is the new product.
Okay, yeah. My latest game is finally out, Jumping Joey. And I think we covered most of this last week, actually. But for those who don't know about it, Jumping Joey started out as a Frogger. It was meant to be a version of Frogger for the CoCo. is going to be a little 16K game, going to work on all CoCos. But as always happens, feature creep gets in. You start adding things, you start changing things, and before you know it, it becomes a slightly different game. It's still very much a Frogger, but I got rid of the frog, and I put a kangaroo in there thanks to Ken Waters' suggestion. I like the idea of maybe we can bring Frogger down under and give it a bit of an Australian theme. So the frog gives way to the kangaroo, and I decided to add an extra level. The original Frogger had everything all on one screen, where you go across a freeway and then you jump across a river, and that was all on one screen in the original arcade Frogger. But on the CoCo, because I'm using semi-graphics, because of the low res, I decided to split the screens up. So every part of the freeway and the river are now two separate screens. And then I added a third screen as well to give it a bit of originality, called the stockyard. And it sits in between the freeway and the river. I guess the main big deal about this game is that it was something I wanted to do, was to try to do a game for a CoCo 1, 2, 3, Dragon, everything that ran CoCo stuff, and have background music playing while you're playing the game, and make it look very colorful by using the semi-graphics mode. So I think I've achieved most of that. So it's a pretty colorful game, and it'll run on a CoCo any CoCo with at least 32K of RAM. So
and a Dragon 32 or Dragon 64.
Yeah. Now, the one thing before I go any further that I'd like to say is I'd like to thank some of the game testers. I'd like to thank Buck Owens, who's been a very big help in trying to debug the game. Now, I'll explain some of the little bugs at the end, but Buck Owen is a very good game tester. I also had Kieran of the X-Raw fame gave me some help as well as game testing, and also compiling a version of the or testing to see that the game worked correctly on a Dragon. And Curtis Boyle, who managed to stay awake and played it and gave me a bit of feedback there as well. So without the game testing, there'd be a lot more bugs than what has eventuated. And talking about bugs, the current release, which I just released the game this week, the current release does have one bug. And it's not really a bug as such, in that it's an incompatibility with the CoCo 3 running an 87 gimme. And that's I've been spending a lot of time now, even though I put the game on sale now. I've only discovered it thanks to Jason, CoCo Man, and Buck Owens. Buck Owens had found it originally, and I thought I had fixed it. But when Jason bought his copy of the game, he then reported this quirk that happens, in that the screen has a bit of a flicker. And that put me back to trying to find out why this bug is coming back. So the version, anyone who buys the game will end up getting that original version that will have a bit of a problem with on CoCo 3s on a with an 87 gimme. Works perfectly on a CoCo 3 with an 86, which is what I use, which is why I never saw the bug. And it works perfectly on a CoCo 1, 2, and Dragon 32, and 64 to a point. The Dragon 64 has a hardware issue to do with the sound, the way the sound works. So you've got to either modify your Dragon, or you can turn the background music off, because it doesn't play the background music correctly due to a design fault or quirk or whatever you want to call it with the Dragon 64. It works fine on a Dragon 32.
Works fine in a Gimme X too, as far as the.
And actually, Curtis has tested it on the Gimme X. It works there as well.
And
it works
Tano.
on the emulator. Sorry, David.
I said, and it works fine on the Tano.
And the Tano. There you go. See, one of the biggest problems I've had in completing this game is because I wanted to try and make it work on every CoCo platform, from all the different hardware, all the different emulators, and boy, is that a hard task, because it's amazing how much there is a variation in timings between a lot of those. For example, one thing I found was that under VCC, the emulator, the game ran too fast. I couldn't work out why is it going so fast. It shouldn't be going this fast. And yeah, it turns out that the VCC isn't cycle accurate enough, and it just played havoc with the timings in the game. So when you run the program, it actually prompts you, are you running VCC? And if you are, it then patches the program a bit to compensate for that inaccuracy. So that gets VCC working okay. It works in XRAW, it works in MAME. But yeah, the CoCo 3 issue with the 87 Gimme, that came up later. So I'm now battling with that.
And it's now working on some 87 Gimmes, because I think you said the last version you sent out worked for Buck.
Yes, it did then. But then Jason found that it was still doing it. And according to Jason, who's running it there in the background in his video, I sent him a new version to test, and he says it largely works now. You only see a bit of a flicker every now and then. So for
I think to get a bit technical here, I think what is happening is that the timing when you're switching between two screens, because you're page flipping.
Well, the game is written to be a CoCo 1 and 2 game. I don't use any CoCo 3 specific features. It's a CoCo 1 and 2 game. So, and therefore, in a CoCo 3, you would assume it's going to work fine, because the CoCo 3 emulates the CoCo 1 and 2 fine. So, it should work. And it does on an 86 Gimme. But because it's being written for a CoCo 1 and 2, I'm talking to the VDG chip. And in order to change the position of the VDG chip, because I use double buffering, it's three bytes have to be set in between every frame. And that works fine. You just do the 3 bytes. You can reposition the screen. It happens fine on an 86 Gimme. And on a CoCo 1 and a CoCo 2 and everything else. But on the 87 Gimme, I don't know what it is there, but there's a bit of a lag in doing that. Every now and then you see the screen just gets the wrong, one quick flash of the wrong video page comes up. It flashes the wrong page for a very brief instant. It just flashes.
Yeah, it looks like the screen jumps up vertically, like half a screen or whatever, every once in a while.
It's as if the 3 bytes that it has to write to change the screen, that there's a lag there, that it changes 1 or 2 or whatever, and then before it's actually had done the third one, it's updated the screen and it's still sitting on the wrong page, and then it does the third byte and then it fixes up. You don't get that on the 86 Gimme or any of the other CoCos. So I've been trying to improve that, to speed it up as much as I can so it does all 3 quick enough. But yeah, there's some weird thing with the 87 Gimme, which is odd, because I thought the 87 Gimme was meant to be the one that fixes the problems of the 86 Gimme. And unfortunately, it seems like it's actually created another problem.
It did fix some CoCo 3 timing issues, but yeah, the CoCo 2 stuff, it seems to...
Maybe they weren't so worried about semi-graphics.
Well, yeah, I mean, semi-graphics technically doesn't exist. This is a bit of a gimme trick to fake it.
That's right. So, I mean, the game overall, it is pushing the CoCo 1 a fair bit because I'm doing okay. The game runs only at 0.89 megahertz, so I don't have the luxury of running at the CoCo 3's double clock rate. So everything has to run at the 0.89, the slower speed. It's using a unofficial graphics mode to get all the colors and that on the screen. It's using the DAC. You got one DAC, and that one DAC has to read the x-axis of the joystick, read the y-axis of the joystick, and generate sounds in real time while the game is still playing. So the DAC's being hammered in this game to do everything all at once without pausing, without delays, or at least very few. So it is pushing it, and it does largely work. But yeah, the problem with the 87 gimmies is the problem at the moment that I'm trying to sort out. So anyone who buys the game will get that well, what I think is a buggy version for the 87 gimme. It's still playable, but you have to put up with the screen flashing every now and then. So what I'm going to do is when I get this thing sorted out, I will send everyone an updated copy just via the email, because everyone who buys a copy, whether they buy the digital download and they just get the game the files for Jumping Joey, or if they buy the CD package, which I've packaged a bit differently this time round. It's actually, you get my other two games, Pipes and Rally SG, as well in that package. I've called it the CoCo Arcade. But anyone who buys the CD will also get the digital download, so they don't have to wait for the CD to get posted from the manufacturer. So they get that as well. But I will update everyone and send them the fixed up copy as a digital download later on when I can nut out the problem. But I think Jason's got a copy of the current fixed version, and he's saying that it's largely working now. Is that right, Jason? Every now and then, do you see a flash on the screen?
I've seen it like once or twice. It's been very infrequent.
It seems to vary, because I know Buck Owens, last night I was spending time with Buck Owens, and we were trying all sorts of things, and I just couldn't get it out, and I was getting tired. I was making mistakes as well. So I just left it at that, and I sent Jason the latest fix that I had to try out. And so once again, thanks to Buck Owen, Kieran, and all the game testers for putting up with all this. This is like I said, this is the biggest headache of this whole game so far, trying to get it to work on everything, because everything is not the same. There is a standard, but surprising how many things have actually strayed from the standards. So you have to compensate for all of that.
Yeah, and you're really pushing it here, because you're doing like scrolling in real time. You're doing
scrolling.
You're doing an H-sync interrupt to do the sound in the background. Now you're using every second interrupt, but basically you're blowing half the CPU time just generating background music.
And you've already got half the CPU time compared to a CoCo 3. So you're running the CPU at its slowest, and then you're blowing half of it anyway to do the music. So it's pretty tight, and yet it does scroll 5 lanes of graphics, and especially in the higher levels, they're pretty full levels, and they do scroll fairly quick. So even I was surprised at how fast I was actually able to make it all work with the background sound. So I guess from a technical point of view, it is quite an achievement. But yeah, if I can just get this last bug fixed, then I can sleep again.
The other nice thing is this is one of the games where you actually have both keyboard and joystick controls, so the player can pick which they're more comfortable with. Personally, I much prefer the keyboard. I noticed during one of Buck's live streams, it sounded like he was using the keyboard controls too. So I know some other people like yourself prefer the joystick. But
yeah, and one thing with the joystick, when you do play with the joystick, like I said, the joystick, using the joystick does also use the DAC, so it puts an extra load on the DAC, which is being used for the music. So you've got to turn the music off in order to read the joysticks, and so that's a bit of a design quirk in the CoCo, in every CoCo, which I wish I didn't have. But the music has to be turned off for that split fraction of a second just to get the joystick reads, and you can actually hear that turning off when you select the joystick game and you listen carefully. You do hear a very faint buzzing in the background. That's the DAC being turned off to read the joystick. But if you choose keyboard, you don't have that problem. So it sounds you don't have that buzz anymore. This time on the website, I try to go into a bit of technical as well for those who like to listen to the technical stuff. I haven't spoken about the bug yet because that's still a evolving work in progress. But I give a bit of an example there of the semi-graphics, because there's still a lot I'm surprised by how many people still think that the CoCo 3 can't do semi-graphics. Well, it can.
As long as you don't use the text characters.
The text characters it can't do, so you just don't use that. You just use the graphics portions. So any score that you need to display, or any text you need to display, you just have to build them with graphics, not the text characters. And all the graphics there then is the same. So I give a bit of an explanation of how to turn on semi-graphics on a CoCo 3. And and this will also let you take an existing semi-graphics game, and there's one extra poke that you have to do before you do an exec on the program and run the program to make it all work on the CoCo 3 with everything except the text part. So games.
So this lets you play things like Protectors 2, Cave Hunter, Pack Attack, Cyclops.
I don't know about Protector 2 because Protector 2 used.
Well, Protector 2, it's harder to play because the people you're rescuing are made of text characters, so they're invisible.
Yeah, so the
you
fact
still
that
get the audio
it
thing if you pick them up, but you have to kind of remember where the heck they are.
Yeah, that game might be a bit of a hard one too.
And it does not work on Guardian. Guardian uses that weird overscan mode.
Guardians, uses another feature, but a lot of the semi-graphics can be made to work on a CoCo 3.
I like the fact that you actually did this, that you actually, for free, you don't even have to buy the game. You can get this little table here. And if you want to try to fix some of your semi-graphics games to work on a CoCo 3, and most of them will get fixed with this, you just have to load it, find out which semi-graphics mode that game is in, do the one poke, and then you type exec, and then it suddenly runs again instead of only displaying the top
so
part
it
of the
does
screen.
work. So I'll put that in there, but I'll probably add to this page later on once I get closer to working out what this bug is.
And this is another nice little nod you did for the CoCo 3 users here too that I just highlighted.
Oh yeah, well, the CoCo 1 and 2 has the 4 arrow keys positioned very well for games, in that the up and down is on the left side of the keyboard, the left and right is on the right hand side of the keyboard.
So and I remember
I remember back in the day when I actually had reflexes, it was easy. You could just rest your hands on either side of the keyboard and you could play. It was quite comfortable. But now with the CoCo 3, they put everything in a diamond cluster, which looks impressive, but gee, it mangles my fingers up whenever I try to control anything. So yes. So in this game, I thought I'll also support the Alt and Control keys as well as the up and down arrow keys. So on the CoCo 3, you can put your hands on the left and right of the keyboard and play it the way it was meant to be played.
Yeah, and from experience, for me testing that would made a world of difference. I did much better.
If you're used to keyboard control, then that's the way to do it. I can't anymore. The reflexes are gone now, so I use a joystick and I use a Atari type Waco stick, and it plays really well with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, the game will support both keyboard or joystick.
Yeah, and then you also mentioned here no kangaroos were harmed in the making of this game.
So. Oh yeah, I specifically wanted that to be the case. Yeah, no kangaroos were harmed in the making of this game. So
frogs, on the
it's-
other hand,
So for those of
Yeah.
you listening on audio rather than seeing the video here, if you go to the nickmarentes.com project archive website, and there'll be links in the Discord show notes. It's $8 for the digital download, which means you get it in the mail within 24 to 48
Yeah,
hours
and I
with
mail
a
them out.
PDF of the manual.
Yep.
And then if you
And-
want
and
the,
you get-
go ahead.
Yeah, and the digital downloads are dual discs. They work on both a Dragon and a CoCo. So it's just a one DSK file, which you load on which can be read on both machines.
Even though the
whether it's
DOSs
a
are horribly different.
Even though the DOSs are different, it will be readable, and that's thanks to Kieran of the XRAW fame, the emulator. He helped me with that, and he built up the disk images. So thanks to Kieran for that. That was a big help. Otherwise, I would have had to add a version on.
Like a Dragon disk image and a CoCo disk image. So you have one.
And I just wanted to simplify it to one disk. So that's what comes in the digital download one for $8, and I mail it out. You also get the CAS file as well, by the way. So if you have a CAS, well, you can use the CAS file, but there's the WAV file as well. So for people who only have a cassette, you could record the WAV file onto a cassette and then load from cassette into a CoCo with at least 32K.
Like go real old school.
Yeah, if you really want to go old school. I think every Dragon came with at least 32K anyway. But on a CoCo, you've got to have at least 32K of RAM, and then you can just load it in with a cassette you can make. You can also take the DSKs, I guess, and make a real floppy if you want.
Yeah. And then we'll mention that the physical CD package, this is where you kind of did the bonus round you mentioned earlier, where you've taken all three of your recent CoCo 1, 2, and Dragon compatible games, which is Pipes, which is Pipe Mania, and Rally SG, which is Rally X clone, as well as this. So if you haven't bought any of Nick's recent CoCo 1, 2 games, you're getting a heck of a deal here for $15. You're getting all three of them. That means slightly less, Ferraris for Nick because he's bundling it, but I think he has enough in his fleet.
Just click on the where it says click here to see the back of the CD case. Right there, yeah. So that's the back of the CD. So they're the three games you get. And every one of them is a semi-graphics game. So you get 8 colors. 8 color on a color computer. That was the whole idea. You've got to see color on a color computer.
Yeah. And you'll notice, like, depending on if you just picked a machine off eBay or something like that, you might not be able to play all these at once if it's not a maxed out machine. But you'll see the system requirements for each of these is different. So Jumping Joy requires 32K RAM, but will work with joystick or keyboard. Pipes only needs 16K RAM, but requires a joystick or mouse. And then Rally SG needs 64K RAM and a joystick. So even if you get an upgrade later, like if you bought a 16K off of eBay or something like that, you can go ahead and play Pipes right then. And then if you upgrade to 64K later, you've already got the CD with the other 2 games, and voila, you got 2 more games to play. So,
yeah, and there's a PDF version of the manual for each one of them, and in the CD will be a printed manual for Joey.
Yeah. So for the collectors out there, I think it's a really good deal.
Yeah, and anyone who has bought the CD as well in the last few days. I've been told by the Kunaki, the CD manufacturer, that they've posted out all orders as of yesterday. So they're in the mail. So people in the US should start getting it in the next, 2, 3, however long the post works in the US. If you're elsewhere, yeah, and even longer for Australia. So I was the first one to order a disc, because I want to see if the disc is actually going to work. But I've got to wait another 3, maybe 4 weeks before it gets here. I would have thought I should be the first because it's downhill, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's I'll probably be the last one who actually gets it.
Yeah.
But
anyway, it's a really
anyway.
good package. The game itself is really well. Like Nick mentioned, I was one of the beta testers on it. The fact that you're getting a CoCo 1 or 2 or Dragon to do 2 voice music in the background, plus sound effects, keyboard and or joystick controls, runs on every CoCo, with a minor glitch on the 86 gimme or 87 gimme, which is being worked on. And it's Frogger with a whole extra stage to it too. The Stampede one where you've got the sliding openings and fences going back and forth while the actual cattle wrap around. So you got to keep track of both separately. Is actually kind of a nice bonus bit of gameplay in there too. So it's pretty impressive.
Wow, what a salesman! Gee, how much do you think I'm paying you?
Oh, you meant cents instead of dollars? Well, I retract everything I just said.
That's right, it's Australian dollars.
Now, I know you
Australian
probably
cent.
do not want to talk about what your future plans on games are, but I think you said before you even get to doing any further game stuff, you're going to be, and I'm probably jumping the gun telling people this, but we've kind of talked about it before, but I think you're going to be working with Rick here on working on the Orc 180, right?
Yeah, well, that's a little side. That's not really a product of. It's just something.
No,
I
but
wanted to do.
it's what you're going to be working on next there, I guess, so that
yeah,
people are
that's
expecting you to
my
jump right
initial
into
thing.
another game. It's not going to quite happen quite yet.
Well, it's a more of a sideline project, so I'll be doing that on the side with Rick, who's designing the hardware, and I'm designing the software. And basically, I'm trying to recreate something that's very much like the original Fairlight. That for those who know what a Fairlight is, it's that music, very early, first maybe sampling synthesizer. Yeah, Australian made too. But the very first model was based on the 6809 as well. It actually
and it
has
signed.
a lot of similar. I think it was, yeah, and I think the hardware was actually, but back in the day, because it came out in the very late 70s, just before the CoCo maybe came out, does have a lot of similarities with the CoCo. Mind you, the Fairlight did improve a fair bit. They added more RAM and all that later on, but I'm just trying to make a version for the CoCo that was similar to the very first Fairlight, or something similar. I don't know. It's still early days, but the trick is that Patrick is taking basically the Orchestra 80 music cartridge that Tandy sold, and he's adding another 2 hardware 8-bit DAC outputs. So it'll be 4 8-bit DAC outputs, therefore making a 4-voice music. And for me, the big thing was that you get 4 voices, 4 independent hardware voices, so you don't have to mix the 4 channels that you're processing.
Yeah, you don't have to add the samples and then shift them.
So
and
you
all
get
that
a bit
crap.
of a speed gain there.
As well as
but,
better fidelity because you're doing 8-bit instead of 6.
And it's 8-bit. So, I mean, that's about it. There's no other smarts in there. It's still a relatively dumb cartridge, although Patrick, I think, might be is looking into adding the ability for sampling as well, if that's still on the cards, Patrick.
Yeah, it looks like captures are doable, and also having 4 channels, we could do some smoothing or tone shaping or something on the 2 channels that have never existed before. So we're still compatible with software that already exists for the Orc 90, plus whatever Nick can come up with. So
well, yeah. So anyway, Patrick's doing the hardware. You can tell Patrick's doing the hardware because he's still got his hair. If it was us doing it, soldering, we'd burn our hair.
Oh, it's burned back. It's burned back.
Oh, okay. Anyway, that's a sideline project. I don't even know how far it's going to go, but yeah, it's something I
wanted to mention it because a lot of people kind of like you normally kind of jump into your next game project. You're already pre-planning it while you're finishing off the previous one, but you are taking a bit of a side here to try that.
Yeah. Well, I do have plans for another game. We're going to be probably doing something like Doom or something. No, I'm not. I've got a few ideas, but Halo. But this other one is just a personal sideline project that I've always wanted to do. So I figured
you'll sucker a hardware guy into helping you out. Yeah, I got it.
Well, if it works out, it'll be an interesting project, I guess, for anyone who's interested in that. Though, it's not the sort of thing. Oh wow, I've got to get myself a sampler or a 4-channel Orc 90. Yeah, I really want to buy that. Yeah, that might be a bit more limiting, a limited market. But anyway, that's all right. Something I wanted to do anyway, and
Yeah.
I've suckered
And
Patrick to
you were
do it
talking
as
about
well.
the Fairlight, which is kind of your inspiration for here. There's been a couple of comments here in the chat. So 6E says, Karen says that Kate Bush made extensive use of the Fairlight. Alan Murphy says the Fairlight inspired Coco Software Hardware Comic, fires cash at Nick and Rick. So obviously you've got a sale there already. Alan also says the movie Aliens, most of the sound effects were created on a Fairlight in Jim Cameron and Gail Hurd's living room, which I didn't know that part. Tom Eric Gummerson said it was also used by the Pet Shop Boys. So this was quite popular in the late 70s, early 80s with music.
It was the first, I guess, commercial sampling keyboard. Well, workstation keyboard, one that you could actually use to create proper commercial music. And that's why it was picked up by a lot of those early artists in the very early 80s. Of course, keyboards advanced from there, and they all have that sampling now in them. But yeah, the Fairlight was Australian designed and manufactured, and it seemed to be the one that kicked off the whole 80s
sampling synths,
sampling synths and all that era. And as Kieran says, yeah, Kate Bush was a big user of it. And anyone who's seen the news this year, Kate Bush has made a comeback this year with
thanks to Stranger Things. Yeah,
Stranger Things, the theme song in Stranger Things. Pretty good that you can actually write something back in 1985, and in 2010, out of the blue, it becomes a #1 hit again. And
even
you're raking in
2022.
millions. Yeah, that's right. Didn't have to recreate the song. It just got picked up and then went on the internet. It just spread like wildfire, and suddenly she's got a #1 hit that she wrote 30, 40 years ago. And it was done on the Fairlight.
Alan mentions this too, and I was going to mention it as well here. Daniel O'Connor actually has a Fairlight and actually was going through some hardware and taking it apart and fixing them up for some of the original people involved with it in Australia. So it's kind of coming full circle if you can get something that kind of simulates it a little bit.
So really getting into the whole Australian thing here. I've got the Jumping Joey now with the Australianized version of Frogger, and now we're going to do the Fairlight on the CoCo.
Yeah. Now I imagine we're going to probably do as with all of your game releases. We usually make it a game on challenge for the challenge live at some point, but we usually give it a few weeks, maybe a month, to let people who catch up the show a little bit later and maybe a little bit behind, especially with Christmas holidays and Thanksgiving and stuff coming up. So we'll make it an official game on challenge probably within before the end of the year type thing for sure. So that's coming, and then I also want to mention the taping of the Amigos CoCo show for Grand Prix Challenge, which they just taped on Friday. Will get released probably on YouTube in about 3 or 4 weeks. But they bumped their original choice for what the next game was going to be to put Jumpin' Joey on. So that's going to be their next game for next month. So you guys can look forward to that too. And once they give me the taping date there, Nick, I'll let you know so you can pop by in the chat and ridicule them. I mean, explain the game.
I'll have to make sure they have a working 86 gimme for it, because they're going to.
I think Boat already tried it. I don't think he saw the glitches, so I'm guessing he has an 86.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. I have to double check with him. He's already played it a little bit. I know that.
Oh, okay.
Nick, you have this you have this Joy character looking real sweet on the label, and everything.
Yeah.
But isn't it true that down under those kangaroos are not so well liked? Is that true?
We like our kangaroos. I mean,
just don't tick them off.
I thought they were pretty much like a pest or something.
No. They're very much an Australian icon. They're even on some of our coins. Yeah, no, they're fine. Although, mind you, don't get in front of a angry kangaroo. They can beat the shit out of you.
So you're going to have a more aggressive version of this game later?
And by the way, a joey, for those who may not know what a joey is, is a baby kangaroo. Well, a joey is a baby marsupial, and normally they call a baby kangaroo a joey.
Well,
so that's what a joey is.
Yeah, so you're a baby kangaroo hopping across, not just playing
Yeah,
with the adult kangaroo.
so you're not violent. This is a non-violent kangaroo.
Wait a minute, though. Isn't there a squish if you?
Yeah, if you run it over with one of the cars in the freeway scene, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It squishes it. And that does happen. It's called roadkill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd like Erico's comment. He said if they're barbecuable, all is fine.
Well, they are. They are. That's the thing.
Oh, yummy.
It's like hitting a deer around here.
Some of the
What kind of
reason why
barbecue
you,
sauce do you use with a kangaroo? That's
some of the reason why you can't sleep at night is this stuff's in the background. Heat magic.
Hey, Nick, there's a question from Tom Eric Gunderson about who did the artwork for Jumping Joey, like on the main.
Okay, Jumping Joey was actually purchased. I was looking for on Google, as I always do. I look on Google for all the different free clip art that you find, but I couldn't find one that I liked, and I found that one, which also had him holding an Australian flag, which I thought, hey, that would be ideal. But it was a commercial one that I had to pay for. So I actually paid to have that artwork. So that's a licensed copy of the kangaroo and the Australia flag and everything. So
is the background like the trees and the sunset? Is that also part of that same image, or is that
no? That was just a general artwork, something I found on Google. Again, that was some freebie clip art. But the Joey wasn't. It was a licensable image,
Are those the typical trees you would have there in there?
Well, we do have some that look like that. Yeah.
Okay.
I assume it is meant to be a sketch of an Australian outback, as they call it.
Yeah.
And it was handy that picture also had a bit of a river in the front there. You can see down the bottom there. I thought, yeah, that suits the game because you do.
Yeah, it looks like he's just about to cross that last level.
Yeah,
there.
he's just about to drown. I mean, jump across.
Now, if that's an outback, where's the bloomin' onion?
Yeah, well, that's right.
Or the steak with so much salt on it, it'll kill you.
Ugh, yes.
The kangaroo steak.
Now, if Paul Thayer's listening, he just had a release too. He mentioned here recently, and I would like to get him on to talk in a bit more detail about CoCoBon at some point too. Now, I know he's been kind of busy, but I'm hoping we can maybe sneak in some time over the next few weeks to get him to talk about his game, so he can kind of promote it, as unabashedly as Nick does. So, give him some, fair compensation there, because it's a pretty good game. It's a puzzle game, so it's probably not. I don't think puzzle games are quite as common as arcade games for some players. I personally really like both of them, so I bought both. So, yeah, hopefully, Paul, if you're listening to this, get a hold of me. We'll see if we can get you on one of these days, even if you just come on for like half an hour to talk about it. Anyway, you can order it now, and if you have the 87 Gimme and it has that little glitch, which it seems like it's not always consistent between all 87 Gimmes either, because you had mentioned that Buck said it was fixed, and then when you gave it to Jason, it wasn't quite
fixed for a while, and then
it looks like it's a bit of variation in the Gimmes themselves, or maybe the RAM upgrade associated with the Gimme might have something to do with it. Who knows?
Is that because you have self-modifying code in there?
No,
it's the page flipping. It's taking the two screens, like basically he's drawing one screen you get to see, and then he's got another one drawing the background, so that you don't get to watch it actually draw. He just changes over to point to
jump between them.
When it's going between them, it's catching it like right in the middle of programming where it's supposed to go find it, so that it suddenly jumps to somewhere it's not supposed to for a split second, then comes back to normal.
So it's a timing thing?
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, the hardware I'm working on has a similar problem between some 87 Gimmes versus
there must
Gimmes.
This is the network card you're talking about, Rick? Or?
Yeah, there's something in there that's we need to track down.
So this is the only time that an 86 Gimme would be appreciated.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the version that you see on Jason on the Coco Man's page there, if you want to just highlight Jason at the moment, Mark, in the background he's got an 87 Gimme, and he's running the latest patched version that I sent him to confirm that works, because it works perfect on mine. I've got an 86 gimme,
well,
and there's no problems at all. But
I was trying to highlight them, but it broke.
Oh, did it? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, he's got it running, and he says he only sees that flash every now and then. So I hope that's with all 87 gimme CoCos. Like I said, we spent a bit of time last night with Buck, and scratching my brains out trying to work out what's wrong. But that's the closest I've gotten to so far.
Yeah, it's definitely improved.
Why did Tandy do this?
There we go.
There
well,
you
in this
go.
case here, that's a pretty subtle thing, and like it's not consistent, so it could have just been a manufacturing thing, which would have been beyond Tandy's control, because that was made by was it VLSI that made the gimme chips?
Well, plus we know they had to patch the 86 gimme if they had to, rob Peter to pay Paul. They're going to take something out of semi-graphics to make the other
CoCo 3 stuff work, yeah.
So
and I'll be honest, I've mentioned this to Nick before too. When we were doing Nitrous 9 as a commercial product, we had one of our beta testers, Colin Mackay, who used to run Northern Exposure. He had a gimme that also, if you tried to do things too fast, it would just freeze dead every once in a while. So we had to actually slow down some stuff that worked on everybody's machine but Colin's, but we had to make sure it had a common denominator, so it would work on anybody who came in and bought it later. But his was our main testing ground, because we found out that his was the most marginal out of all of our machines, including some other testers we had, and we had to always slow things down an extra cycle or two here and there, just to make sure it wouldn't crash on boot on people that had that really bad gimme chip. It worked fine playing games and stuff, so obviously it was good enough for Tandy. And we were running a 609 at the time too, of course, so that cut the cycle times down more than Tandy would have seen. So maybe that's where we're pushing it marginally. You're not doing that in this case, so you don't have any 639 optimized code in here at all, do you? Or
no.
Mode? Yeah,
it's all 6809.
Yeah, and I tried it on two CoCo 3s with 87 gimmies, one with a 6309 and one with a 6809. Same
no
result.
Difference?
Yeah, no difference.
Okay. Oh yeah. Anyway, if you want to get a copy of it, and if you got a CoCo 1, 2, 3, or a Dragon 32, Dragon 64, it mostly works on all of them. It's definitely playable. I mean, you just get a flash where the screen, draws like halfway down or something, and then it immediately goes back to normal. So it doesn't prevent you from playing the game properly. You can still play it.
No.
But hopefully Nick will be able to figure out the exact timing to get it to work on everybody's machine.
Well, doesn't that become like a collector's edition, with the
Yeah, well, that's what I figured.
Yeah, he was talking about charging extra for this version,
Yeah.
actually. Because
you ought to have it so it detects whether you have a 87 or 86, and then, we would show the gold edition,
Right.
Yeah.
And I see Mark Siegel's mentioning in chat that it may be the RAM chips and not the gimme. And if I had other types of memory to try, I would, but I don't.
But you're using the Trident cards, aren't you?
I've got the boomerangs.
Triads.
No, boomerangs.
Oh, boomerangs. Okay.
Yeah, got a 512 boomerang and a 1 meg boomerang without a DAP in there. I do believe.
I remember back when the CoCo 3 first came out, though, when the third-party 512K upgrades started coming out, some of them used 150 nanoseconds, some used 120, some used 100. And some hardware horizontal scrolling stuff did not work properly on some of those RAM upgrades and did on others. So they did figure out, Mark's right, that there is some RAM issues there, too. I don't know, for people that have triads or the old Boys in Tech or Marco when he starts selling them again, or the 2 meg upgrades or the 8 meg upgrade from Ed Snyder, et cetera. If there's any differences that makes, depending on the gimme as well.
For whatever it's worth, the 86, 87 gimme problem that I'm seeing, we have checked against various RAM upgrades, and it's not that. I mean, we've been through
good to know
several speeds of old-fashioned upgrades and the boomerang and the triad, and there's no difference in them. There's something in the gimme. So,
okay.
Now this wouldn't have to do with age, would it? Like after a while, something degrades.
I suppose it's not impossible, but I don't think it is.
I mean, and all these machines work for most purposes just fine. You just run into weird things like this game, my card, just little oddities.
Yeah. And the problem went away when I did the high speed poke, but then the game was too fast, but the flickering went away.
Which again points to timing. Because you got more time to service the H-Sync IRQs and stuff. Are you doing those screen changes on a V-Sync, Nick, or are you doing them just...
Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for the V-Sync, yeah.
Do you shut interrupts around it as soon as you detect a V-Sync?
I tried that as well, and I thought that fixed the problem, but it's been doing it still, yeah.
Okay.
Could it be related to the issues we had with the Sparklies?
No, I don't think so, no.
You know, where we had a bus contention?
Wow, who knows? Who knows for sure?
Could be. You guys are way above my pay grade here. This is all hardware stuff. All right. I guess the essential thing here is that Nick is working on hopefully a final fix that'll fix those few CoCo 3s that are having this little bit of odd behavior, still play the game. The music still plays, etc. And that you should go to his site, check it out, and order it because Daddy needs a new Ferrari.
Yeah. Do you think there are? Do you guys think there are more CoCo owners with 1s and 2s than 3s out there?
Judging by the sheer numbers sold, there should be by a large margin, and plus the fact they're still affordable. CoCo 3s on eBay or not, but I think a lot of people that are active in the community have stuck with CoCo 3s because it plays, games or programs from all the CoCo's history instead of just the CoCo 1 and 2. So I imagine the active ones is probably a bit more on par, or even a little bit higher. I have a one CoCo 1 here, but I don't break it out that often. It's even got a CoCo VGA in it. Okay, anything else to add there, Nick, or should I finally get off the Nick hype train here?
You can finally get off it, yep. That's it. I can get off my box.
Anyway, it is a really good game. You should have to check it out. If you have a CoCo 1 and 2, especially, it's a really good one, having background music, 9 colors, including black, simultaneously on the screen with scrolling, keyboard and joystick controls, and a Frogger clone with a whole extra level that doesn't exist in the original Frogger. So you're getting some originality there too. So
okay.
And now it makes sense that the character drowns.
Yeah, like Frogger. That's true. Okay, so on to the regular Game On news now. So we announced last week Paris Surratt and Keys Von Oss had released the 4th AGD Games Pack, a set of 4 games that are from the Spectrum's AGD game designing software, ported over to the CoCo and the Dragon, but enhanced for the Super Sprite FM Plus board, which means it has 16 color graphics and it's got multi-voice sound in the background, etc. Well, hot on the heels of that, literally within a week, he's released the 5th pack. So there's another 4 games. That's now 20 games that now support that extra hardware, and that hardware works on Dragon 32, Dragon 64, CoCo 1, 2, and 3. You can actually put it in 3 as well. So this one here contains the games Bomb Bomb Buster, Boxes, B Squared, and Captain Rescue. And he's got some screenshots here of the full 16 color graphics. Obviously, this won't be playing the multi-voice music and sound effects from the sound chip that's built into the board, but you can definitely see it's an improvement over the black and white versions that the standard ones we get are. Kind of get an idea for the palette. The resolution's basically the same, so 226 by 192, except you have a lot more color. But some pretty nicely designed stuff. We've seen a couple videos on some of the first gen of these he did. And speaking of that, and you can go get this in the World of Dragon archive at worldofdragon.org. You can get it on their software downloads channel. They have a bunch of forum channels there, and the one software downloads channel actually has the downloads you can actually get. And all the regular HED games are the big packs we mentioned last week are on there too. And then you can also get the HED enhanced ones here. Now, kind of along the same lines here, John Woodworth, who created the Super Sprite FM Plus board, on behalf of Paris Surratt, said that they're trying to figure out what games to port next because he's ready to do his next batch. But rather than just going in the order of the 300 plus games that are already out there, they're figuring if there's any games that are favorites of anybody who's been playing them, that maybe they'll try to get those done first. So they'll do the packs in like order of what people want to see versus the order they were originally released in. So I know there was a few enhanced engine ones. I'm trying to remember. Canadian Retro Things actually had one of them as a game on challenge that added some new engine stuff that like layers where you can walk behind objects, in front of objects, etc. That'd be a good one I would suggest. But they're taking a poll on the Super Spread FM Plus board, and if you're even at all interested in this board, you should join that group on Facebook. And then they're going to set up a poll once they get some suggestions. So send suggestions first if you've got some games that you think would work, and then they'll probably put a poll up with, say, 10 or 20 or whatever it is. And then you'll be able to vote on which ones Per and Keys Van Os should concentrate on porting next. So now I was wondering, how many people on the panel here have the Super Spread FM Plus or are interested in getting one? Terry, you're interested or you have one?
Interested. And
I'm interested.
Emulated.
Okay. And David Ladd, I'm trying to remember if you had or you were interested in one too.
I'm interested, but financial situations are always a hindrance, which is why I also don't have a Gimme X either.
Well, they're also on obtaining him at this point, so you have another extra excuse on the Gimme X. I know some people, I think Brian Weezer just got his though, didn't he? I think he was going to have it installed and try to show it to us at some point. I think he received his. So hopefully we'll get some live reports of it soon. And with some of these new game packs, I'd love to see exactly what these look and sound like. Anyway, if you go to the Super Spread FM Plus Facebook group, you should be able to suggest some games that should be ported next from the AGD Games collection, which I think is up to 350 games or just under that. So there's a lot to choose from besides the 20 that have been ported already.
They've almost reached half of what Jim Gary's put out for the MC10. Can you believe it?
Oh, no.
AGD, yeah. Now, just because I knew Ken wasn't going to be able to play some videos and stuff here for the Game On Challenge, I thought I'd show a little bit here. So this is from David Ladd, our first place winner this week too. Is that the first time that's happened, David, where you've won the Game On Challenge?
Is this maybe the second or third? I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I've won something else in the past. I just don't remember what it is.
Okay. So this one here, I believe, is the one that is both patched for the level 3 bug, where the game just stopped. And it also has the P-Mode 4 artifacting color patch, so that on a RGB monitor on a CoCo 3, you actually get some full color on it.
Right. The one that was from me winning the challenge, I believe that one is the one that's on my Dave's Hobbies. But this was another one I recorded, I think, last night and just put on this channel.
So anyway, for the people that were wondering what the heck we were talking about in the game here, besides just from screenshots, I'll play a little with the sound so you guys can hear it, because it actually has background sound running the whole time you're playing, which actually is kind of cool, but especially for like a 1982 game.
You just don't have my background commentary.
Well, yeah, we'd probably have to bleep most of it anyway, so.
Really?
There it is. You just heard the whole background.
So I'll turn down the volume a little bit here, but for the people that have not seen the game actually running before, Dave, do you want to kind of explain what the gameplay is here?
Well, basically, you just try to collect all the, well, in this case, the blue X's and avoid the red ones. And, yeah, don't go in the center. I accidentally got in the center once, and it took me like 5 minutes of holding the joystick the other direction for it to eventually let me out.
And the game speeds up the more of the blue things you're collecting here, I presume.
Yep. Or at least there's less things to keep the CPU busy.
Yeah, I think it's actually on purpose. It's just like Space Invaders. It actually is the CPU, but they've worked it in so that actually is part of the gameplay too. Is that a timer-based bonus you get at the end, or a level-based, do you know?
I have no idea. I was just trying to keep from dying.
Anyway, that's I think enough to show that, but I just wanted to show what the actual gameplay was like for those that have not seen it.
Is tip number 1.
Yeah.
Usually. But on this one, after level 4, it cheats. They can go through the walls, but you can't.
That's not cheating, that's just extra difficulty. Or handicapping.
No matter how you call it, it's still cheating.
That's not an issue. That's a feature.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, it's a pretty cool original game, as I mentioned before. It's one I definitely like playing back in the day. Sorry I didn't get a chance to participate this week, but next up, these are a couple quick videos here that Retro Arcade Gaming on YouTube. Now, he's been putting up these little short videos of Donkey Kong ports, clones, transcodes, etc., for a variety of systems. He's done some comparison videos before, but he just kind of split them out. So he did one for the Donkey Kong transcode by Sockmaster, which is one that's pictured here. I won't play it, but he actually shows all 4 levels too. So you get to see like the elevators and you get to see the Pie Factory, etc. And then he did a second one doing Donkey King, which of course is a clone. Now this one he wasn't able to get to all the screens. He only did the first 2, so the rivets and the first screen here. So, but it plays the sound effects. There's no commentary. It's just raw gameplay, and it's like little 1.5, 2.5 minute videos. So if you want to do like a comparison shot between what a Spectrum version of Donkey Kong looks like versus the CoCo 3 one or something like that, you can do that just by going between the videos. Well, it's kind of cool. He's covering some CoCo stuff there. This is kind of a follow-up. We did a comparison video on Hunchback. This is a newer one with some extra things on it. I'm not going to play because we just literally played the Hunchback one within the last couple of weeks. But I thought it showed the static screen that he chose for his frame for the YouTube here before you actually play the video, because what it actually is showing is how the main character that you're playing is rendered on all the platforms, which in this case includes like a BBC Micro, a Spectrum, a Dragon 32, the original arcade game from England. And can you guys pick out based on the color palette here which one the Dragon one is? I'm sure Nick can.
It's got to be the lower left.
Yep.
Correct.
Background. Green,
Now,
red, blue, and yellow. That's what you get. Enjoy it.
Yeah. Now, if you're familiar with the Spectrum and how they do their color mapping with Color Clash, you can probably guess which one it's a Spectrum version too.
Bottom row, one on the right-hand side from the center.
Yep, correct. The old color bleed. And the upper left, I believe, is the original arcade game. So actually, the resolution's not too much higher there, actually, to be honest. A little bit, but yeah, it's interesting to see, like, because of the palette limitations or the Color Clash limitations or what modes you have, how much of a difference, a quote-unquote official arcade port has between the different platforms, from the BBC Micro to the Dragon to the Electron to whatever. So I thought that was kind of interesting. If you want to check out the whole video, it actually does gameplay with the sound and the graphics and goes through multiple levels of each and kind of compare all the different platforms together. Next up here, call -151 on YouTube. And for anybody who's used an Apple II or 2 Plus, you'll know exactly what that means. That's the way you invoke the disassembler and the monitor. So you could actually do some poking around in assembly language there. I used it quite a bit back in school. So I thought it was a pretty
come with one.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool name for a YouTube channel, but you can definitely tell he's got some Apple centric, and he's got an Apple II sitting on beside him there on the right hand side too. But basically, what he did here is that apparently he's been working on this for a couple of months, trying to get some tape-based games to play from an MP3 player to load on the Dragon. Now, MP3 is a lossy format, and I'm wondering if maybe that's why he didn't really explain, but I'm wondering if that's why he had so many challenges that took him that while to get. I know it's also a bit fussy on volume. Maybe even the treble settings or something like that might cause some issues too. But he actually got it to load. So he actually ends up playing the Dragon 32 version of Planet Invasion by Spectral Associates, which of course is in a different color set than we're used to seeing here with the Artifacting North America. I'll just play a little clip of it here.
Yeah. So I'm very excited tonight because I've managed to get my Dragon 32 working, which has taken me weeks and weeks and weeks. Let me just come over here and I'll show you what I've done. Because I connected it to a laptop to load the tape format things in a WAV form, but it just wouldn't work. And I found out I needed a new cable for it, so I got that, and then eventually, after playing around with the laptop again, I worked out that it wasn't like putting the audio through properly off the laptop, so I loaded the WAV things onto an MP3 player, and lo and behold, it loads. So I've now got Planet Invasion playing, which you can look at the screen here. And I worked out that I've got a joystick which actually works as well. So I'll just show you a little bit of me playing Planet Invasion. Hang on.
It's so different seeing this with the white backgrounds to the black.
This is good stuff.
Hey, I won't play the whole thing there. I don't know if we've covered Planet Invasion on the Game On Challenge yet. That's a fairly decent Defender clone. The sprites are quite small, but it has all the different parts of Defender in it. So, but it was interesting to hear that it took him quite a long time to get the MP3 player to actually load things properly. It sounds like he had a bad cassette cable as well that was causing some of the issues there. But as we pointed out many times in the past, the Dragon definitely was much more cassette centric than the CoCo was here in North America, where most of us were into disc drives by the mid '80s for the most part. And by the CoCo 3, I don't think pretty well anybody was really using cassette. At least nobody I knew on a CoCo 3. They usually had disc drives. Now that's it for the Game On news. Do you want me to go straight in the rig, or did you want to play a little intro thingy?
Yeah, I can do the intro.
Okay.
From around the world, what you need to know. Get caught up on News with L. Curtis Boyle.
And now a Muppet News Flash.
Okay.
Okie dokie. Get my screen. There, I think I got the right one. So I was getting some Discord messages. Somebody who might be coming on for a project update afterwards if his internet connection where he's at right now stays stable. It's been off and on. It's not Ken. Okay, so Pierre Sarrazin has actually got 2 updates to CMOC in the form of library updates, not the actual compiler itself. So in the upper left corner of the screenshot from his main webpage where we can download all this stuff is the DECB file version 0.1.7, which he just updated on November 13th. So basically this one here, he added a demo showing how to use the driver to read and write files from assembly language programs, so you don't actually have to use the C part. You can actually use these as assembly language routines, and actually handles the file system, so you don't have to do all of that. Because basically the discon routines that come built in that the Tandy recommends in the manual to use are very, very low level. It's like basically read and write sector, and that's pretty well it. It has no idea there's a directory or a file system or anything else, or granule table and any of that. You have to do it all by hand. So this gives you a pre-done library that you can just call with some parameters and actually have it handle all that stuff for you. And it doesn't need the disk basic ROM. But he actually included this time an assembly language program, rather than a C program, that actually shows you how to use it, basically. So that makes it a bit easier for people that are kind of new to this. And then if you scroll down a bit here, the other one he updated this week on November the 12th is B control. And that particular one there, this is some of the basic input functions that are similar to some of the basic things like in key, string, and the joystick and the button commands for reading joystick buttons and reading the joystick X, Y axes, etc. But this also do not need the ROM routines, because some games will use the actual color basic or extended basic ROMs to call these things. And then on a CoCo 3 in particular, you have to like map stuff in and swap it out or whatever. And this is standalone, so you don't need any of that. So it's basically routines where you can make it so that your program does not require the ROMs to be temporarily mapped in or copied into RAM to eat some RAM in 64K. This will actually do it on its own. So you don't need to bring the whole darn ROM in just to read a joystick or just to read the keyboard. So the other thing he added a new call called joystick get access values and button state, which targets a single joystick and also works under OS 9. So the targeting a single joystick, I think if I remember correctly, the basic ROMs actually sample both joysticks every time you call a joystick command. It always checks both of them. And that eats a fair bit of CPU time to sample both. And most games, you're usually only using one joystick at a time. You might swap between left and right between 2 players when they're taking turns. There are some games that use both. Project Nebula is one I can think of off the top of my head, Intercept 4. Some other ones where they use both joysticks simultaneously with the same player. So obviously that wouldn't be any good for those types of games. But in most games, you're only doing one. And Nick, I'm pretty sure you also optimize your code, so you're not bothering trying to sample both joysticks at a time. You to make it run faster, just sample the joystick you're actually using, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this gives you that same option in CMOC. So your joystick scanning, if you use this new updated B control, will be faster than it was before, and probably a little bit smaller in code, I imagine, if you're not having to sample both. So that's version 0.1.4, and the fact he's got it working at OS 9. OS 9 has its own calls for doing joysticks and buttons. So I'm imagining he's just remapping those to get stats. But at any rate, you can write a C program using CMOC for OS 9, and Pierre's done several games for OS 9 level 1, like his Color 8s game, for example, where you can actually just, it automatically just calls the OS 9 routines, and if you're running it for a disk basic program, it automatically uses its own libraries type thing. So you could even make a port of the game for both operating systems with not as many changes having to be made between the two. And he's done that on his Color 8s game as well. So hey, that's 2 library updates for CMOC.
So
you can
Curtis,
see here.
real quick, the thing is, if you scroll down right to the below where the downloads start, so look at the libraries and sample programs. One of the things I wanted to point out about his site is that this is a whole pack of pieces that are designed to help build CoCo programs and Vectrex programs, for that matter, much easier. So you've got a library and example code for graphics, a library and example code for disk, for sound, for controls. And there's as you dig through it, and it's worth taking the time to dig through this. If you dig through it, there's the high-res text code, there's auto booting and boot track stuff, and it's laid out with public domain attribution, so you can use it to jumpstart building your game. And all the way at the bottom of the page in the documentation section is CMOC for basic programmers. So if you are a CoCo basic or programmer and you want to get into more of the C and assembly speed type stuff, there is a transition map to start with that can give you some starting places to how to take more advantage of all these code blocks quickly. So, I mean, there's one, A-star, for example, graph traversal and path search. What the heck does that mean? Well, that's for moving your guys, your little NPC AI guys, to attack you back. A-star is a way to find a path around a map for the guys chasing you. So there's all these little pieces that have been built up here as an example for people to take advantage of. And I really, really just wanted to thank Pierre for doing all this, because I've looked through this. He's got a very interesting no-ROM keyboard routine. Then now with the no-ROM disk routine, no-ROM for the control stuff. He's making it where you can get access to as much of the machine as possible easily to build your game, and providing examples to start learning and working from. So
yeah, and he actually has complete game packages on here too. You can download some he's done himself, like the Color 8s, but he's also got like the the one by Jamie Cho here, Space Bandits, which is a CoCo 3 multi-voice, high-res graphic, digitized sound effects, the whole bit game. Quite a good one, actually. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. There's complete software packages that are ready to go and download if you're just interested in trying games, and a ton of programming stuff, like you're mentioning, like libraries and explanations and sample programs and how to use them. It's a really nice package, and he keeps updating it too. So I mean, it gets more and more powerful as time goes on.
And there's a big app example there for, you want to use up the whole 64K RAM with no ROMs or everything for your program. Here's a map to get to how to do that.
Yeah. No, it's a really nice package. I haven't had time to fiddle with it too much, unfortunately, but I've been definitely following the progress of it. Yeah, for the programmers out there, or even for the people who just want to try some games here. I mean, like Space Bandits is a CoCo 3 game that's on here. There's Splinter, which is another one Jamie did for the CoCo 3, which is kind of a breakout game. There's his own Color 8s program for the CoCo 1 and 2. There's just a ton of stuff.
Spend some time. Good treasure in here.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, now next up, I was hoping Tim Linder was actually going to be on the show today. He could talk about this a little bit in further
Tim
detail.
Linder showed up.
Oh, there you are. So you did an update to the CoCo SDC manual, I believe, the 3rd edition?
Yeah, I called it the 3rd edition.
Yeah. So since you're here, rather than me reading my notes, do you want to explain what has been updated?
Sure. Let me go to your notes. Some really small updates, took about an hour. I got rid of the Boyson Tech reference, added some minimum configuration new information that I got from Darren. And in the Flash ROM section, I added a link and a screenshot to the new GUI that Guillaume made. That's about it. Oh, and I also added a better explanation of the streaming mode that programmers have access to.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, that's what I wanted. Since you're here, I would like you to touch on that a little bit there, because I think a lot of people have heard it has a streaming mode, but don't really know what that is and what it does, and why would you want to use it?
Well, what it is it allows you to send 512 bytes at a time, any file on your SD card to the CoCo. And it does it as fast as it can. It's under software control. We're not talking about any DMA or anything like that, but it allows raw access to the underlying file system on the SD card.
Yeah. So, for example, like one thing I can think of, if you wanted to have a musical background and you have a pre-recorded like an 8-bit WAV file, for example, you could have it so it's a huge file. It's a full 4-minute song. It's like 10 megabytes long. You can just tell the SDC to point to that file and then mount it as a stream, and then it'll just send you the bytes as soon as you read them. It has the other next byte ready, and you can literally just write those to the DAC in the background, kind of like what Nick's doing, with some of his background sound games. And just you don't have to like mix voices together. You don't have to like try to build a table of notes and stuff so you can get it to fit in 512K. You can just have the raw sampled right from a CD at 8-bit or 6-bit levels and whatever frequency you can keep up with in your game, and then just send it straight to the DAC. Just load, store, load, store, load, store.
Yeah, all under software control. Auto incrementing, so you don't have to ask for the next block. It'll just be provided next automatically.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about programming the MU or anything. You just basically open a path to a file and Bob's your uncle, and away you go.
Yeah.
So on the Discord this week, one of the discussions was about how to get CAS file support into the SDC, and the streaming mode is one of the ways you can do that, because you're able to go to the path and start loading in the cassette stuff directly without having to open a DEC-B disk image and locate that file within it and things like that.
Exactly.
So this is one idea that people were looking at. So there may be some upcoming changes soon where you could start supporting CAS files right on the SDC.
That would be cool.
Totally possible.
Especially for the Dragon users there, because they use CAS a lot more than we did. So
and with the updated explanation and with the clearer sample code, hopefully that makes it a bit easier for people to get the last mile on that.
Another hidden feature of the new PDF is that the sample code has been attached to the PDF as files, so you don't have to copy and paste from the text.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
cool.
PDFs can contain attachments.
You don't happen to remember where that streaming thing is, eh?
You're getting close. It's at the end of the programming section. Yeah, the end of that section right there.
Okay.
There it is. You passed it. Oh. It's on that last page.
Oh, there we are. Stream.
Number 8, retrieve. Yeah, low-level streaming.
So, like, Nick, this is something you might want to think, because, I mean, the SDC is pretty well standard at this point.
Yeah.
So that it would actually simplify
that'll
things
be
for you,
good.
too. You could even set it up with, like,
good.
4 bytes at a time. They would just read, 4 bytes in a row and send it out to, like, an ORC 180 or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you don't have to worry about, incrementing MMU blocks or checking to see if you've wrapped an 8K space and all that kind of stuff. You just tell it, start sending me stuff, and then you just do 4 loads. And if you set up the right register, you probably might even be able to do it with a straight push and do all 4 bytes in one push statement.
Yeah.
So hopefully the informational text is a little bit more clear, and of course there's some sample code on using it in the PDF file, and give it a look, see if you think it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Ed's done some demo programs, I know, on his site that actually use the streaming. I think he did his one that does the video and audio, like it literally plays like a full motion audio video thing, even on a CoCo 1 and 2, using this mode.
Where do we find this?
In the CoCo archive.
Yeah, the manual's in the CoCo archive. The demo program I just talked about, I think, is on Zipster Zone. I don't remember where, specifically on Zipster Zone, but that's where I think where I found it.
So does this replace the old one?
Yes, it
Old manual?
replaces the old manual.
Yeah, so it's basically a third revision with additions and stuff. The streaming mode was not in the original CoCo SDC. That was something Darren added in. I can't remember what year it was, but he added that more late.
Yeah, you have to have the updated firmware to have access to it.
Yeah, yeah, because I think Ed requested that from Darren, and then Darren added it in, and then they kind of collaborated.
Firmware is available to download, so you can download it and flash it yourself.
Yeah, you flash. Actually, it's one of the few things you can flash directly from the CoCo. You don't need one of that. What is it, Quanta or Qantas thing that you have to use for the CoCo VGA and the Gimme X? This one you can actually do from the CoCo itself.
Yeah, yeah. Darren really put together a solid package here with the SDC.
Yeah.
What's the current version of firmware?
Well, there is a link. If you go to the beginning of the PDF there, Curtis, there is a link there that will take you to the web page, but I don't exactly know where.
Is it still 1.6?
Don't know off the top of my head.
I checked recently for myself, and yes, it's still 1.6.
Okay.
And the microcontroller hasn't changed in about the same amount of time.
That's right, because there's two parts to it. Then they don't usually get both updated at once, but yeah.
And we should plug Guillaume's Flash utility. Page 15 there. There should be a screenshot. Lets you copy data to the Flash. To the Flash, to the Flash banks on the CoCo SDC, with a lot easier than using command line utilities.
Oh, cool! I didn't even know that existed. I hadn't had a chance to really go through this, so yeah, because you got what, 8 banks total, I think.
Yep.
Yes.
Cool.
I believe it's RTFM.
Who does that? You can ask Nick how many users actually read his manuals. So.
Thanks, Dave. Yes,
none.
Now we have AFM, so that's something.
So what was that, Alan?
David Lab put the link in the chat. It's cocosdc.blogspot.com. Gets you to like the current firmware version and the manual download page for the CoCo SDC.
Yeah, and that downloads as a disk image. You actually just put into your CoCo SDC like any other disk image, and then you run the utility to install it, and actually will do the update within the CoCo itself, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy process.
That Darren guy, he's like smart. He comes up with a cool package.
Yeah, I just wish he took feature requests from me like he does from Ed, because I would really like to see 639 write TFM handled, because right now it's too fast. I have to slow it down. That's just me.
CoCo feature creep forever.
Yep. And since Tim's here, I will actually mute this, and you can kind of explain what this is. It's a Tier City video tech software demonstration. I'll just say that for the audio listeners, but go ahead, Tim.
Well, look at that handsome gentleman.
Where?
Are we watching the same program?
So a few weeks ago, somebody posted the ROM to the AgVision. And for those who don't know, the AgVision is a terminal device that Radio Shack and some other companies put together in the early 80s so that farmers could have access to real-time information. And so I got a hold of the ROM, and with the help of George Phillips, who did most of the, who basically did all. There's another emulator out there called the TRS-80 GP, and he normally focuses on the Z80 TRS-80s. It's a really good emulator, and if you ever had need to emulate one of the Z80 machines, that's definitely it should be one of your go-to.
It plays Gem Hunter like a dream. But
Yep.
anyway.
That's a real test.
But he also emulated the video text machine. And when the AgVision ROM came out, I decided to sit down and add that to MAME. And it's not really useful if it doesn't have something to talk to. And on the CoCo archive, there's this document that lists all the features of the communication software and what it supports and what it does. And the more you read it, the more you go, this was available in 1981. Oh my gosh. And so I just decided to sit down and write a server that exercised all the features, to make sure that the emulator in MAME was working, and but also just to see this stuff work. And yeah, it has text positioning. It lets you write high bit characters so that you can do the low res graphics. And as you see here, it can send over what it calls medium res graphics. There's no mention of high res graphics. Who knows why? And also, surprisingly, you can send over a whole CoCo program. You can have the host send over some 6809 machine language code, and it hangs up the connection before it runs it. It specifically says that. So it's not like you could take over the communications channel, but it all seems to work, and I had a lot of fun writing the server.
Yeah, and just looking like we're watching one of these medium res graphics. I think it's 128 by 96 2 colors. That's what it is.
That's right. 128.
And it's
by
actually, it looks
96.
like it has run length encoding because it's 300 baud. You can see these bursts. If it's the same color pixel, it does it in chunks.
It's already.
Yeah. I believe it's the same protocol that CompuServe used later for some of their
there
stuff.
are early kit graphics, which they actually did support high res, like 256 by 2. And in fact, the CoCo's on CompuServe, the CoCo's artifact colors were so popular. I remember the IBM PC got a program to run CompuServe graphics through that actually simulated the artifact colors on the 320 screen, just so they would look like the CoCo ones did.
Can you move it along a little?
You don't want to watch this all in real time, Ron, at 300 baud?
We don't have to watch the whole thing. There was one feature listed in the technical
There you
document that I couldn't get to work, and that's the changing of the cursor color. It just didn't seem to work. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, this is where you can really see the RLE compression working because of all the black spaces. It basically a 2-byte sequence, so it loads quick until the zebra starts to fill in, and now it's slowing down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another feature of this particular that video text package in the AgVision is that it supported CompuServe B file transfer protocol. So it was, kind of hardwired to give you the best benefit. Other than that, you just had to save it to a screen buffer and then use some of the Rainbow magazine hacks to like print out what you had downloaded.
Yeah, or save them to disk too, or tape.
VideoText didn't even support printing to start with. That was a very early Rainbow hack thing. So, it was very hardwired for CompuServe, and you don't see any of those extras being talked about or used much. And that support just kind of rotted away until Tim came along and pulled it all back together real quick to demo it. So
yeah, I remember Radio Shack actually sold on behalf of CompuServe VidText, not VideoText, but VidText, which was the disk-based version, and that had a full CompuServe B protocol, which is basically a slightly less capable version of Z modem. So it's full streaming blocks and the whole bit. It was actually quite an advanced protocol for the time.
But that technical document does talk about the CompuServe B protocol, but it doesn't have enough information to emulate fully. But the documentation for this level of CompuServe B is out there. So,
yeah. Well, there's an OS 9 version. I'm trying to remember who did it. Was it Mark Griffiths or Mike Dezidzik? Somebody did an actual CompuServe B upload download program for OS 9 with C source code, because I used to use it all the time, and it worked quite well.
OS 9 is a server for video text terminals. Nice.
Yeah.
And here I'm demonstrating how you could do stored text. The machine's not actually online right now. You're using it in offline mode, and you're typing in text in a screen. But then when you do go into online mode, the host can request that page and get the data, as fast as it can.
Yeah, because one thing I didn't think most people, younger people especially, they're used to the internet just being, you might have a data cap at 10 gig or something like that. But back at this point in the early 80s, late 70s type thing, you paid by the minute. So if you had to sit there and hand type in things and you're not the greatest typer in the world, it's costing you more money. So if you could pre-type it in using this buffer and then send it all in one shot at 300 baud, you can get it in and out in a minute, type thing where it might take you 5 minutes. That might save you $5, type of thing. This was horrendously expensive. Go
If
ahead.
you could pause here, I don't know if you can, but it shows.
Let me go back a bit.
It shows that P code at the end of the data buffer. That's not something I actually typed in. That's a code that's within the ROM, and it's one of the things that changes between the AgVision and Videotex ROMs. So
Also, there is a difference. Is that just an identifier? What is that?
It's some sort of identifier that it gets whenever it reads a page of the graphic screen. I have no idea how they used it, but it was there for every page retrieval.
No, I remember, I can't remember if you mentioned this video or if I read it somewhere else, but basically the AgriVision, the one that Terry Steggy's going to be getting soon here, hopefully by Tuesday, and the Videotex ROMs, the only difference is this little identifier. Like, other than that, they're identical.
Right.
And how close is that to the Videotex cartridge ROM the CoCo got?
That one's pretty different because the interrupt is completely different between a CoCo and a AgTex terminal, AgVision terminal. They had to rework it a little bit. Of course, on the AgVision, the Videotex software has the entire control of the RAM, but I believe that the CoCo version uses the input output of the basic ROM, so it has to keep the low memory variables available for the machine.
Okay, so it actually calls some of the basic routines like what, polecat, that kind of thing, or
polecat, yeah, and char out, yeah.
Okay, it's a really good video if you want a bit of a history of Videotex and early CompuServe protocols, etc.
Yeah, I'm just hoping one day we get a VCR recording, a videotape of what the AgVision service looked like. I think that would be really neat.
Yeah, I mean, there's videos of like early CompuServe, et cetera, here, but the AgVision, which was kind of created as a sub-market for farmers, like I'm assuming they'd be getting like weather reports, maybe grain prices on
the
stock market or something. I have no idea.
Oh man, I recognize that horrible code.
Yeah, that's Alan's code. He contributed to this project.
So
by the way, there's a sneak preview of what Terry should have in his hot little hands here in a couple of
I'd
days.
love to see that blue in real life.
So how did you write this server, or what did you use? I can't imagine.
Well, there's a technical document on the CoCo archive that goes into excruciating detail about how the bytes are transferred between the host and the client. And then I just wrote it. I wrote it in Python.
Okay. And then you send it. How did you hook up to the hardware?
I'm connecting to an emulated version under MAME.
Oh, okay. So what we're seeing wasn't on hardware.
That's right.
So was that Becker port or the MAME serial port?
The MAME serial port.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, baby.
Fancy FPGA thingies.
Yep.
What
300 baud, baby. That's all you need.
What year did the AgVision come out?
Well, it's a little indeterminate. It might have come out in very, very late 79, which would have made it one of the first 6809 machines ever. Otherwise, it came out in the early 1980, before the CoCo.
Yeah, the CoCo got announced in the summer of 1980, and I think the Videotex was announced around February or March. When we were going through a few months back there, all those internal Tandy magazines for the employees and stuff, they were talking about the AgVision and stuff, and it was definitely before the CoCo even was announced in their own internal magazine. So
the Fairlight was before this.
Oh yeah,
Fairlight.
Yeah,
The
what year
Fairlight,
did that
I
come
think
out?
was 79. I think. I'll look it up.
Yeah, but this would have been late
Really?
79 if it did come out. In 79.
Yeah, it's about that period.
Because the 6809 itself was only announced around that time, wasn't it? 78, 79?
Yeah, yeah.
The early Fairlight used a 6800 of some sort. The second version used.
Yes, actually, you're right. It was a 6800.
Yeah, and that chip had been out since what, 74 or something, I think. So
yeah.
It was a really cool video. I mean, I know some of the history of the AgVision from reading it in Boise and Bill's book. And also I remember the Videotex terminals and Radio Shack stores, the gray ones. I remember those quite vividly being there, but actually getting the protocol running and seeing what it actually looked like, actually doing things like it was supposed to, that I had not seen before.
What did the Fairlight use for VDG? Like,
It had its own circuitry. It didn't
So-
use
it didn't use the reference design of Motorola.
no, it didn't. And it had multiple CPUs. It wasn't just one though.
Right. Yeah.
Did it have
It had-
multiple 6809s?
It did in the second one. I'm not
Oh.
sure in the first one, but it had a whole card for one DAC channel. So each DAC channel had a CPU, had its own CPU and RAM. And there was one master CPU that ran the actual computer. So it was multiple 6800s or 6809s. Yeah.
You know, it's funny that you bring up the Fairlight, because another thing that I'm really interested in is in a different synthesizer called the Ensoniq Mirage, and it also used the 6809. And its claim to fame is that it uses a sound chip that was invented by the guy who did the SID for the Commodore 64.
Oh yeah.
And so there are a lot of people who really have great respect for his technical ability.
The Apple II GS has that chip, I think.
Yep.
Yes, Ensoniq.
Yeah. So Terry, we're really hoping you can make it next week. And I don't know with Thanksgiving if you're busy with the family on the weekend. Like, do we have to wait a whole 2 weeks to see the Egg Vision once it comes in?
Yeah, I'm going to try to. I was going to also say there's one other version of the video text out.
Oh, here, let me quit sharing so we can show everybody this. You want to zoom them up, Mark?
Yep. There he is.
This version?
The TDP version.
Oh, look at that.
There's
Wow.
the TDP version. He'd be the guy who'd have it.
Is the cartridge label TDP as well?
It is, if I can get it out of there. Gosh dang it.
Live unboxing.
Look
I
at
don't know if
that.
you read that or not.
Yeah, there it is. TDP right there. Awesome. So is
Another-
that ROM dumped?
Another
somewhere?
ROM I need.
Yeah, I'll have to dump that. I'm actually even surprised the user manual. Let's see. It even has the TDP logo on it too.
Oh.
Wow.
I didn't know that existed.
I actually have two of them, if you can believe that.
So you got the world supply at this point.
Yeah, the only
Yeah, there you go.
Another thing I want to mention is Mark Siegel on the Discord said that there was a French version of the Videotex software that used different speeds for receive and transmit, but that was the only special detail he revealed about it.
Yeah, that was they had that split baud rate for send and receive 1275 or something like that. Something really weird. Can't remember the details, but I do remember they added that. It was something fairly unique to that market.
Now the MC10 would have made a very good video text terminal. Compact, and it only needed the VDG, which it had. So
If only it had a keyboard.
well, it had
and the
a keyboard as
microcontroller
well.
contains UART that they never used.
Yeah, and programmable
Yeah.
timers.
So it would have made a better agricultural machine than the CoCo.
Have you seen fingers on the fat fingers that farmers have working on all that equipment there? You'd go to
True,
press the
yeah.
space bar and you'd hit half the keyboard. So
That's why I collect them.
You know, back in the day, I hooked up a Model 1 keyboard, chiclet keyboard, to MC10. I don't know. I don't remember how I did it, but it must have been in one of the magazines or something. Because at the time,
you mean a Chair City Model 1 or a CoCo Model 1? Which are you referring to?
CoCo Model 1 keyboard.
Like a chiclet. Okay.
Chiclet keyboard, yeah. I put it in a little box and I had a ribbon going out into the MC10. Somehow I got it to work. I'm not a hardware guy, but at that time I did it. I don't know.
Yeah, because I thought you were maybe referring, like, I know Color Computer News in 1982 or late 81 actually had how to take a Model 1 keyboard with the numeric keypad from the Tier City Model 1 and put it into a CoCo exactly where to cut the case to get it to fit. and then how to wire it in, and you actually would have the full thing with a working keypad right in the main CoCo One case.
Hmm.
And I did see one or two people around my area in the club that actually did do that, so I got to see that live and actually try it. It's kind of cool.
Ron said something offline a couple hours ago. I would love if anybody has one. They converted one of these. What were you saying, Ron? They converted one of these terminals to a CoCo?
Yep, it was a CoCo One at the time. This was in '84 at the Rainbow Fest. A guy brought it out. In fact, I asked Steve Bjork if he remembers. He don't, but at the time, it was the big stir of the show. Was the guy doing a talk about how he made the keyboard work and the printer, and it had a line out for.
So he probably had one of the first portable CoCos.
Yeah.
Wow.
With a printer built in.
Yeah, printer, modem, carrying case out.
Fletcher had competition. Got it.
Comment from Wayland in the chat too. He said 1200/75 was common because people can't type as fast as the screen can be filled. So you get 1200 baud for receiving the data you're going to read on the screen. Typing was only at 75 baud going up, which actually is a pretty good compromise, to be honest.
Yeah, it makes for cheaper hardware if you can save costs on transmit.
Yep.
That's funny. We were talking about CompuServe earlier. Remember logging in at 300 because it was cheaper for conferences because you can't type that fast. So,
yep.
Yeah, different prices for different speeds.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, we'd wait
Try
until
to tell
after
kids
midnight
these
on a
days.
weekend when it was cheaper, go on at the higher baud rate just to download software that was on the forums. And then if you want to do interactive chat or whatever, you go, do it slow because it's cheap. Well, cheaper relatively anyway.
I remember having to mow about 30 lawns this summer just to pay for my $800 phone bill. My dad was so happy with me.
Oh, I'll bet.
Yeah, I did that too.
I have some files that are saved. And I used to use them with my Vavasource emulator. And I'm thinking, how did I get these files? And then I just realized recently that those were from when I downloaded from bulletin boards or whatever, CompuServe or whoever, so they were hit and miss in different things, that I picked and saved. And I'm looking at it thinking, now, how did I get these? And then I realized it was from those days of downloading, late at night.
Yep. Yeah, I remember those days well.
Yeah.
Mikey Furman in the chat there mentioned, I remember this video because we featured it when he brought it out here, but he said, yeah, there's a video starring the PT210 terminal. It's called CoCo Conversations. We had the two computers talking to each other.
Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So
anyway, thank you very much, Tim, for making that demo and stuff there, because that's like I said, that's the first time I've actually seen Videotex actually running since the early '80s when they demoed it in the store once in a while.
Terry Steggy, what's the processor in that 210 thing?
I don't know. I've not opened it. I need to open that and see.
Mikey might know, so he
Z80,
can pipe up in the chat if he knows.
Yeah, I bet Mikey would know.
You think it's a Z80?
Probably, I guess.
Probably an Intel i3, I'm guessing.
Maybe an ARM. Anyway, on to the next story. Speaking of the Ag Vision here, this is the one that Terry actually posted under his YouTube channel named Retro Tech Time. And these are pictures from the actual auction you won, right? So this is the actual machine you will be receiving.
It wasn't even an auction. The guy posted it as a buy it now, and I just hit the button. I couldn't believe I got $80, so I was pretty happy.
Okay. You're not sharing.
Oh, am I not? Okay, share here.
Come on, Curtis, we're waiting.
There you go.
Scored that for $80.
I did.
Wow.
Right
Is that
now.
an LED?
Buy now.
There's going to be a lot of jealous people both in the chat,
Yes,
and
it's
here on
online
the
LED.
panel, and listening to watching the show later. I have to say.
Yeah, I was pretty stoked. I've been looking for one for years. My my grandpa actually, they had one that he put up at the local bank, and they used it quite a quite a few years, but I don't know whatever happened with that one. And they'd gotten another system that had some kind of a satellite feed to replace it. And I've always regretted I didn't get that one. So I was pretty happy to at least find one.
You
Have we figured out? Have we figured out what this stands for? Like it says, what is it, a Janko or something like that? Or
You
Lanko
can look
or
it up
something?
on Wikipedia. It's the name of the company they're an agricultural based company at the time that was getting into this project. And my theory is that the Ag Vision blue is because that came from their logo.
Notice the red, green, blue, just like on the CoCo.
Yeah. And the label placement, label size, I think is the same as the first gen CoCo
Yeah.
ones too. And they did put it. Is this an activity light or a power light here for the modem? I can't remember.
I believe it's like the video tech. I think it's power.
There is a word there.
There were a few
Below the light.
computers. There were a few computers back in around the late 70s that were blue. That's why I thought maybe the blue was a fashionable thing for a computer back then. Things like the Ohio Scientifics. There's a few other, and yeah, blue was the color of those.
So, do you think this is a Mercedes blue?
It looks a bit. It looks shiny, yeah.
It looks like they put the LED where the RAM badge goes.
Yeah, they did. In fact, the little RAM badge thing is still there, just as a
They just put
memory
the
size
LED
goes.
in the middle.
Yeah.
Did you get a picture of what it says under the light, under the LED?
I'll have to see here. And according to this, I mean, if the serial numbers are serious here, there's at least 2,200 of these made, but I don't know if that includes the gray ones and the blue ones or not. So.
Yeah, I wonder if somebody else has one with a number on it.
November 80.
Yeah, so that would have been just after the CoCo 1 got released because it was announced in, was it June or July of 1980? And I think they went on sale by around September, October.
So by November, they were up to 2,200 and something if the serial numbers mean anything. That's cool.
And here you can see it's using the same case molding, but they didn't actually punch out where the joysticks, etc., went because they didn't need them.
And if you look at the board, they're probably not there, right?
Yeah, I think the board's a fair bit different. I mean, Terry, you've got older Videotex terminals already. I'm assuming the motherboard's a bit different.
It is different, and I stand corrected. That light is a data. That I don't know if you can read that.
Let Mark share you again. Make him full screen. You don't need to see me.
So it says data, not power.
Yeah, if I get that up there right.
Yep.
It should be active when you have a phone connection. Yeah,
So
modem
you know to keep waiting. It's
know to keep waiting.
Well, more likely so you don't leave it on, you don't need it. So you're not paying by the minute.
Yeah, that got expensive, especially here from Canada where we had an extra surcharge to use
Wasn't
data
it?
pack to access Telnet to access the source or CompuServe, whatever. It's like $30 an hour by the time you get all done.
So it should have been a green LED for the money being spent.
Yeah, that's the money light. Warning.
Hey,
All
Terry,
you need is a phone line.
Terry, you ought to take a something and cut out that side panel there where the ROM pack goes in.
I don't think he's going to be modifying something that rare.
And then stick a ROM pack in there and then get a picture of it. Saying you have the only one that runs ROM packs.
Put a Videotex pack in there, right?
Yeah,
right. Hey, yeah.
I'm online on 2 services at once now.
Better yet.
Multi-video text.
Yeah, that's a cool bit of history. I mean, I personally would not give myself because I'm not a collector per se, but that is one I do want to see in person at some point because it's rare.
Yeah, I was just blown away. I will definitely bring it to CoCo Fest.
Might have to put it under lock and key.
Right.
Might have to hawk it to afford to come back the way gas prices were, but
He's going to show up like Elwood Blues with it in a briefcase locked to his wrist. And...
And do like they do with the original Apple board. They have it in a glass case.
Yeah, and an armed security guard by it or something.
Right. That's what you should do.
Yeah,
Ron,
that's
we'll
a bit of
get you
history.
some glasses and some earpieces. Will you protect it?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll store it at my place just in case.
Okay.
It's
And I
safe.
would
It's-
say AgVision is still a company. They are still in business. I don't know if that's
Oh, they probably got 12 of these suckers in their office.
so.
wherever they
I
are.
I actually contacted about 2 years ago. I contacted the company and asked them if they had like a historian or anything. Of course, they kind of laughed about that. But, I did ask if they had any like retired folks that may have been around during this, and the one lady replied back to me and said she was forwarding my information on, but I've never heard back. So if I do,
Well, that's too
that
bad.
would be awesome. I'd just love to see what the box looked like, see what the manuals looked like in it, but
Yeah, and as Tim was mentioning earlier, I'd love to see a video of the actually running to see what the farmers were actually getting for the
exactly.
service.
A commercial, that'd be awesome. How they sold it.
Then you would think that they would have that at their business.
One of their corporate demos or introduction videos or something from the days.
Yeah, it sounds like they've been sold multiple times, so I'm sure that's just been lost to time.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Anyway, thanks, Curtis.
Yeah, and definitely looking forward to seeing it on the show. You can kind of show us what it actually looks like in real life.
I will do that.
Are you
Just
gonna
don't drop it on the floor like that guy with the drum memory type thing.
Yeah, are you going to promise not to put, take the guts out and put a modern PC in it?
I will promise you 1000%. I will not do that.
But it'd look good with an i5.
Or a Raspberry Pi.
There
it is. I knew someone was going to say it.
What? I couldn't help myself.
All right, continue on with the news here. So the next one is from Color Computer Programming, and this is where he was starting to learn to use the built-in timer function, the fact that you can reset it, the fact that you can actually, it's a background timer, so it runs while your basic program's running, so you can kind of keep track of how many seconds have passed, etc. So I'm not going to play the video, it's 20 minutes long, but it's him kind of exploring how it works and trying to get it to time, like changing the color of the screen, etc.
So
He had a typo in his
real-time clock or what?
Sorry, what?
It's a real-time clock?
It's a real-time timer. It's not a real-time clock. It doesn't have a clue what the time is. It just says, so once you set it to 0, it's going to count to 60 every second. So you can, if you do at 120, it's 2 seconds since you last reset it.
Yeah, it just counts ticks. Tick, 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 tick.
Yep, VSync ticks.
How many ticks have happened?
And wraps at 65,535, which is 18 minutes and some odd seconds.
How many ticks did your dog have?
65,536, counting from 0.
Anyway, the funny thing is that he sent me a comment on his YouTube link here because I've been kind of helping him with some suggestions and stuff. And he mentioned that the game he's working on, which we showed a few weeks back, he's actually now using the timer to time the music he was playing at the beginning to cut it off, so the player has some time to actually play the game rather than just playing the music until you hit something. So he's kind of using it in a primitive way, exactly like Nick does, to do the background music on his games in machine language. Except, of course,
his probably doesn't sound as bad.
But I mean, it's cool that the exact same technique of using the VSync tick timer can be used by a machine language programmer to do like multi-voice music in the background, like CoCo 1 or 2 by Nick. And a basic program can use it to do some music stuff and basically when to cut it off in the background after you've played for so long, just from straight basic, no machine language whatsoever, no machine language knowledge whatsoever. So it's a pretty powerful program or statement for a command for basic that you can use for a lot of things.
So you can use it to pause like a for next,
Yeah, like I know the Color Basic manual, because Color Basic itself did not have the timer. That was extended basic. So the Color Basic manual says on a CoCo 1 or 2, if you do a 4 next loop from 1 to 460, that's roughly a second. But you can actually use the timer to do it the same way, do it just by counting to 60 is a second type thing. So you can use it for timers, but you can also use it because it runs in the background. Like a 4 next loop, you're basically locked the machine up doing a 4 next loop. That's all it's doing. But if you want to be able to say have a timer in a game you're writing in BASIC and you want this level to end after 10 minutes or something like that, if the player takes too long, you can actually just keep you can set the timer to 0 when he starts the level, and then you just keep checking. And once it's 10 times 60 or 10 times 60 times 60, then you know that that's time to end the level. So you can actually do that without you having to write some weird code trying to figure out how much time has passed. It'll do it for you, basically. You just have to just monitor when it hits that number. Next up, I will play the little intro of it here, and then I'll let you guys watch the rest of it. So TJB Chris, who's done multiple videos on a CoCo 3 and the various Model 3s and 4s, the CoCo 2, etc. He's done some stuff on OS 9 Nitrous 9. He actually finally picked up a Color Computer 1, and he got a pretty good deal. It was almost as good as Terry's getting that Ag Vision, maybe not quite that good, but I'll play the little bit where he kind of shows you what happened. And then he does some demos where he's actually trying it out, and he runs a game on it. He runs an actual application on it, and then he also runs OS 9 level 1 on it just to kind of show it all running here. But I'll just let you see what he got for what, and then you can watch the rest of the video on your own.
Greetings everyone, TJB Chris here. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me. Tonight I want to share with you a not so recent acquisition, this Radio Shack TRS-80 color computer. And this was an eBay find. It was, the whole lot was $70 plus $70 shipping, which might sound high, but it was actually for all you see, not television of course, but everything you see here. Machine, Black Beauty joysticks, CCR81 cassette recorder, blank cassette in packaging, Stacko cassettes, some in packaging, some not with software on them.
And the best
Color
one, Color
Scriptset.
Scriptset.
Another version of Scriptset for me to play with, yay. These cassette labels with the realistic branding in original packaging unopened, and this manual for the game Madness and the Minotaur, which did not come with the machine. The Black Beauty joysticks are the aluminum handled ones even. Look at that. So tonight I'm going to walk through exactly what I got with this machine real quick, and we're just going to power it up and kind of put it through a little bit of its paces, but nothing too fancy. So let's get to it.
Anyway, I'll let you guys watch the video to catch all that there, but that's a pretty good deal for $70.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, that's pretty well the same CoCo I had, except I had a 4K badge. He has a 16K badge in his, so this is obviously upgraded 16K at Radio Shack. But the original aluminum joysticks, the original cassette player and stuff, that's a pretty good deal. I'm not quite sure why you had to pay $70 shipping. I guess it's just the bulk of getting everything in there, but.
Oh, shipping prices these days is just ridiculous, Curtis.
Oh, it has? I haven't shipped anything in a while, so.
So Curtis, Model 1 like that was a 4K badge on it. Do you think it's worth more?
I don't know. I'm not a collector. Like, that doesn't matter to me. So I don't know. I don't follow that really. I'm like me, because I'm a user. I get CoCos to use. I don't get them to put them on a shelf and look at them. I get them to actually use. So in my case, I upgrade everything to the max as I can as soon as I can. So I'm not the right guy to ask.
Brian Weasler would probably be the best person that would have, what he's seen and all his looking and stuff.
I only said that because you said that you had one with the 4K badge.
Yeah, my D board aluminum joystick CoCo 1 that I got in 1981. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that that's probably a little bit nicer to have. And I have one, so thank you.
Mine was a bit different though, because you see where you have that nice silvery gray paint on the bottom.
Yeah,
the curve there under the keyboard. Mine had completely worn black plastic showing through it because of how much I used the darn thing. No, and of course, if you got the later F boards, it was white underneath, not black.
Now listen, they call stuff like that patina, sort of, but this is actually in reverse because it's actually taking the paint off.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you wore it off to the black plastic and then later the white plastic for the later CoCo ones. I don't remember if that. I think it was black for the see-through E boards, and I think it was white on the F, but there might have been a bit of a transition there. Where it was kind of mixed between them. Anyways, a really, really good haul for him, I think, to get some like real vintage stuff for cheap. And this machine, I don't know if he upgraded himself. I can't remember from the video or not if it came this way, but it actually has 64K RAM in it with extended basic. It's not just a 16K standard basic machine, as the label indicates.
And it's got color scripts.
Yeah, I mean, that's the gold mine, obviously. I mean, I know you've got Jumpin' Joey up, but come on, scripts it. That's
oh yeah, scripts. It's the best game ever written on the CoCo.
I think we're going to probably mess up the new CoCo guys that are watching. Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna have to get one of them.
Some of these claims may not be entirely accurate. That will be my
Yes,
warning.
right.
Next up, we have, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. We've actually featured his channel before, Hero Dub 2D on YouTube. So he does these little bits, and he's done little bits in the CoCo. These quick little videos, basically just showing it turning on and showing a CoCo 2, a CoCo 1, etc. This one he actually runs a little bit longer. It's a little over 2 minutes, and he basically just does some very basic programming, like CLS and print and that kind of stuff. But then he does some math routines and loops and stuff to kind of show the floating point, etc. So it's basically just a little demo CoCo Basic. I won't run it here, but glad he's actually exploring the machine a bit more than just turning it on and showing that it works. Next up, Kim Justice, who's a rather large YouTuber in the UK and covers a whole bunch of retro systems, usually with a gaming bent. So this is from the Retro Computer Festival in 2022 at Cambridge, I believe. And there's whole segments here on different chunks of the machines that they were showing off. So this little section here I'm going to play is covering anything CoCo related. Now this covers, it has CoCo 1, 2s, and 3s, and Dragon 32s, the Owls, as you can see here. It's even got a CP400 from Brazil that we just had on the show recently too. So, and Tony Jewell, who's actually very active in the Dragon forum on Facebook, is actually kind of posting a little bit of this here. But I'll let you guys see that part where you can kind of see our side of the fence at one of these big retro shows that covers a variety of machines.
And yet, it's bad. But it does make for a nice segue to Here Be Dragons wares, a mixture of real machines and clones. You've seen two Matra Alices that look identical, but one's a horrible cheap clone that holds 1 measly kilobyte of memory. Not exactly good for 1983. This CP400 here is a Brazilian clone of the Tandy CoCo, also quite cheap and cheerful, although not that bad. Next to it we have two quite well-known machines, the original Silver CoCo and the Dragon 32. Now, the Dragon is often called a clone of the CoCo, which isn't necessarily accurate. They're more like cousins, and the Dragon was far more successful over here. Tony told me about Tandy's arrogance when it came to selling the CoCo in the UK. They tried to sell it for £399, the same price as it sold for in the US, but without any conversion. The Dragon 32 was sold for half of that price and is just about the same machine. It's also better looking and has a far superior keyboard. Needless to say, the CoCo failed miserably in the UK as a result. It's not all bad here for Tandy, mind you. This Video Genie system here is a lovely clone of the TRS-80 from Hong Kong.
That's the system 80 in Australia.
Indeed, complete with a bit
that's why
of
I'm
wood
still
action,
playing it.
And it's one in the very impressive TRS-80 version of Zaxxon. Not bad at all for a computer that goes all the way back to 1977.
No, it doesn't.
Well, that particular one, but they're talking about the technology from the Model 1 that it's cloning.
Oh,
from
from the
77.
Model 1. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, it was pretty cool to see a kind of like a CoCo Dragon area, and also see the Alice and an Alice clone. Sorry, go ahead. I think it was Alan who was talking.
Yeah, just I gotta disagree with that whole what looks better than what commentary. No, no, they both look great. And that Mercedes gray is awesome, and the Dragon is awesome, and you don't be trying to, throw shade like that. So no.
I will let Kieran answer that in the chat. We'll see what he says since he actually lived through that himself too.
Correct.
I will agree with the fact that the keyboard in the Dragon is far superior than the CoCo 1s or the CoCo 2s for that matter.
Yes. The keyboard, no contest. But it just this whole aesthetic look thing, nah.
Yeah. And it did have a parallel printer, a real one port, which would have been nice too. So in some ways it was superior. I have to agree. Yeah, now, aesthetic wise, I mean, that's obviously up to the viewer what your aesthetics are. But I can kind of go either way on that one, just depending. I prefer the CoCo because that's what I grew up and was used to.
Yeah, I was sensing a little bit of overseas bias in that whole what looks better. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to stand up for the colonials and say no.
Well, we'll have to see if Kieran is brave enough to respond to this in the chat. We'll have to see what he says here.
Plus,
he said
first. The other one, it got to cheat. Just take a look at what's already done. Anyway, we can talk about it offline.
Erico says in the chat, the Alice takes it all anyway. It doesn't matter what the CoCo the Dragon looks like. So
he said that it was $399 in the US,
pounds,
but the Dragon didn't come out The Dragon
82.
didn't come out till 82. So really that ad wasn't current for when the Dragons came out. That ad looked like it might have come out earlier.
Yeah, I think the main point there wasn't so much what the price was in that specific commercial. The problem was is at that time it took $2.12 or something like that US for a pound, but they didn't change the price. So if it was $1.99 in the States, it was $1.99 pounds, which would be like $410. If you converted the credit, all they did was they just changed the symbol from a dollar sign to a pound sign. They didn't change the price. And at the time,
wouldn't that have made the Apple real expensive?
well, no, that was Tandy's own decision to sell their own stuff that way. So, I mean, that's why the Dragon outsold it. I mean, the Dragon sold 400,000 machines in a year and a half. So
They priced it like an Apple.
yeah, exactly.
Would have got them.
They would have been much more competitive if they actually made it. You know, obviously there's VAT tax or whatever it was called back then, but it would have been different. But it was overpriced for what it should have been. They were just
and they didn't even carry the 3.
No. Anyway, if you're interested in other retro machines from the UK and Europe, there's a ton in that video that Ken Justice goes through a whole bunch of families of computers there. So if you're into other retro computers as well worth taking a look at the whole video. Link will be in, of course, the Discord show notes. Next up, Tony Licari, who I believe is a fellow Aussie to Nick here. I don't know if you're familiar with him, Nick.
I haven't heard of him.
Okay. So he kind of rejoined the CoCo community here, and he's got a ton of stuff. Now, one thing he's been trying to do is recover floppies. Now, I know Brian Palmer and a few others responded because he said he's found a whole boatloads of floppies that he's going to be trying to read from his CoCo days. And Brian is hoping that some of the missing pieces, and I honestly, so am I, some of the software we cannot find. Like there's a few from Tasmania, for example, that one basic graphics compiler thingy that you found the manual for, but nobody has the disk for. I'd love to see that, for example. So I'll read this out loud since you can't see it if you're listening to the audio version of the show. But he said, something I found out about floppies that are not working or dirty. Gently cut the side of the floppy and remove the disk without vigorously bending it, and insert it into warm soapy water and dry it with some old sheet, preferably flannelette, very soft cloth. Put it back in the sleeve. Believe me, I have gotten so many floppies going again because of this. Not always successful, but does work. Even better if you have a new sleeve. Sometimes dry sleeves prevent it from reading properly. So he's been recovering some of these discs, and some other people did some comments. But that's something I've actually never tried. Has anybody done that or something similar to try to read an old floppy that just won't work, that has some irrecoverable code on it?
Just fine.
I tried
That's exactly it too. Warm soapy water, keep the cookie flat, the inner mylar part. Warm soapy water, very gentle. Don't scrape the surface off, and then dry it with a sheet that is much like the inner liner of the floppy itself. Put it back in.
Okay. I've never personally tried this, and I do have some floppies that I have that has some code I don't have anywhere else. It doesn't exist anywhere else. I've kept them, but I've never tried to do anything. Maybe I'll have to give this a shot.
When your little sister spills stuff into your disk box and whatnot, you get desperate. And yeah, what I would do is take a razor blade and slice the back of the floppy
sister. Oh,
it over. No, Nick, she's still around. But no. On the back of the floppy, you can see like tabs where it's folded over on many of them. And I would just slice under that and open the floppy back up where it had been folded and glued. So
yeah, because it was on 3 sides, they glued it on right at the edges. I remember.
Right. Yeah. And so you just cut that back apart underneath, and then you can put the floppy back, and it doesn't look like it was even opened.
And if it still doesn't work, you put the insert back in upside down, and you need to flip it over and put it back in the sleeve.
Correct. Yeah, that's just about every time until you learn to remember which side the ring stiffener was on.
Yeah. Now we did get some responses from 60. He says, I missed the question, sadly, with a smiley face, which I don't know means if he really missed it or if he just doesn't want to comment. But then he said the keyboards, though, Dragon 64 Alps keyboard was lovely looking and great to type on, but they definitely break more readily than the Dragon 32 keyboard, which I forget the make of. I want to say GoTech, but isn't that some HXC floppy emulator? Like, yeah, that's what a GoTech is. And he also says that CoCo keyboards I have are a bit squishy for me relatively. I mean, the CoCo keyboards did improve. The Chicken one was serviceable, I guess, is probably the gentlest thing I can think about. It's better than Atari 400 ZX81. The CoCo 2 melted keyboard was an improvement, a bit more travel. The CoCo 2 full travel and the CoCo 3 keyboards are pretty good, but they're still not up to Dragon level standards, I don't think,
They
which is
do
kind of
have
like the
that
Mark Data Products keyboard, if any of you have tried those.
Yeah, they have that squish he's talking about. Yeah, the keyboards were no contest. But the way that comment was made was, oh yeah, this is garbage, and this other thing that's the epitome. And no, it's not that far apart.
I'm just waiting for you to comment on Kim Justice's video directly and see what her response is.
Right.
And that's pretty cool. I maybe have to try that. I've heard some people doing something similar or along similar lines. And since you guys have actually done it successfully and recovered discs, I think I will have to give that a shot for some of my lost stuff. It might still be corrupted, who knows, but at least it's not readable now, so what am I going to lose, right?
Yeah, but these days you have to also be real careful with the temperature, because the glue binding has also probably dried out. So check very carefully for cracks before you start flexing or moving anything heavily, because that can actually flake off some of the surface media.
Okay.
And I don't know, this is a Sir David Ladd question. I don't know if gently baking the floppies will help restore the binder enough like you can with tapes.
I honestly don't know. Most of the recoveries I've done for stuff has been, they've gotten something on them, or a little bit of mold's been growing on them. So it's like distilled warm water, soaking the floppy disk itself out of the sleeve, then using a new donor sleeve after the disk has been rinsed in distilled water, and then I attempt to use the grease weasel to recover the data.
I knew you were going to sneak a grease wheels reference in there.
Oh yes, gotta love that grease weasel.
If you get mold, or if the liner inside the old floppy cover gets material soaked into it, then you do want to throw that out. So the donor sleeve thing is, if the rest of the floppy sleeve is not good, yeah, take the cookie out and put it in a new sleeve instead of putting it back in the old one.
And just recreating the problem again, basically. Yeah.
And we can definitely not recommend the suggestion from the peanut gallery saying that they can use a wire brush and a garden weasel.
What about cookies and bacon? Is it Canadian bacon?
I just heard cookies. Now I'm hungry, so let's hurry up and finish the news.
Oh, and the other thing I want to note, have been rumors and multiple videos on YouTube about using isopropyl alcohol. Absolutely do not use isopropyl alcohol on floppy disks or cassettes.
No.
Because it basically destabilizes the bonding agent. You basically wipe the rust off the mylar, and you now have a transparent disc.
Okay. Okay, and the last two stories I've got for today are both MC10. So the first one here is posted on the MC10 group on Facebook by Steve Blakely, and I've not seen him do much else on there, so I don't know if he's a newer user or just has been silent for a while, or I just forgot his name because my memory sucks. But he said he's tested this on Linux. The results may vary, and he said type slowly in the MC10 for best results. What he's done here is he's created a terminal program for the MC10 that lets it talk to a DT1 terminal. And he gives a bit of an explanation here, and you can actually download the actual software from the Facebook group itself, the MC10 Facebook group, and give it a shot yourself. Now, he does mention a couple of things here. Use Codem to load it, then left all the settings standard 300 baud, but other people can experiment. Press the break key and the enter key. The MC10 screen will look blank. Now, everything you type on the MC10 will appear in the DT1 emulation, but not echoed on the MC10 screen. So he's only going in the one direction due to MC10 emulation, have fun type thing. So I think if I remember correctly, there was a terminal program that Radio Shack sold. I think it was Micro Color Compact. So kind of a clone of the Color Compact that they did for the CoCo.
Yep.
For the MC10.
Yep.
Which was fairly simple from what I remember, but it was perfectly serviceable to log into an ASCII text BBS, right?
Yeah, and they made a CoCo version of the same thing.
Right.
Now, with the MC10, because it actually, I mean, it had a bit banger, same as we did, but actually had a real serial controller in it too, didn't it?
It did, but it was unused.
Okay. Would the programmable timers that had on the 6803 itself enable you to make a more robust terminal program than we did, having to do it all through software loops in ours?
That would be
I
a
don't know if
great
anybody's experimented. Because to me, it would make sense if it's a programmable timer and it's got enough finesse to it. You should be able to do 1200 baud easier than we did, because we had to do it through software timing loops. And if you're trying to do full duplex where you're sending and receiving at the same time, that's a real bear's butt to try to do properly. I imagine having the different software timer or hardware timers built in the MC10 might have actually made it better for that kind of thing than the CoCo.
Well, on this DT1 experiment, he may not be getting anything back because there's nothing on the DT1 host that's echoing back. So it's sending over and it's showing on the DT1, but the DT1 isn't doing the echo back that the terminal setup is expected.
Okay. Anyway, for those people that have MC10s there, if you guys want to give us a quick shot test type thing just to see how it works type thing, that'd be kind of cool. He mentions that he tried a 300. He said you could try it at different baud rates, so it might support more. Color compact and micro color compact, from what I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it only supported 300 baud. I don't think it went higher, did it? Did it go to 12?
They were partly basic too. They weren't full assembly code.
Yeah, Tim Linder mentioned here in the chat too. He said the microprocessor has an internal UART, no need for timers, the 6803, but is it not hooked up? Is that the problem?
Correct. There's no port wiring, and there's nothing in the ROM code that uses that internal UART function of the microcontroller. Okay, so that UART that's on there is not actually hooked up to the Bitbanger port at all. Right. James D can give you about an hour and a half on how all that works, and seriously,
I admire his restraint, but
buckle up on that one because he's got some opinions on that.
It's kind of like having opinions about the Dragon versus the CoCo design.
The look of it, exactly. Some people are
So that was cool. And then the last story for the MC10 here, this is kind of a cool one for me. So the Alice, the French clone, I guess, the red clone of the MC10, of course, was meant for a French market. So their software is usually written in, you guessed it, French. So they had a thing called Découvrez Alice. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Well, basically, it's Explore Your Alice, basically, type thing. And it was a program that required the RAM upgrade, I'm pretty sure. But basically, it kind of took you through the pieces of the machine and how everything works and what you can do with it type of thing, with little animations and sounds and songs and stuff. And Jim Gary took the time to convert it all from French to English. So now it works as far as the MC10 goes because it's identical hardware. Now, it's a 13-minute long video. I probably am not going to play the whole thing, but I'll play it until you guys get tired of it. But it's pretty cool to see something that kind of teaches you not only what the machine's made of, but then actually gives you even some sample basic programs simulated on the screen that you can actually see how certain pieces of basic run, what the commands do. So it's kind of not just a display of what it's capable of doing as a demo of the machine like they normally have in a store, but it actually was a little bit interactive with the person running it. And you could actually learn a little bit of basic programming while you're at it, which I thought was a kind of unique thing. I didn't see that too often where it's kind of covering both of those duties in the same program.
Asparagus has been called. Just point of order.
Yeah, it's from Ken though, so I don't care.
I looked up my
I'll turn this down a bit. Go ahead, Ron.
I looked up my picture of the color compact, and it goes 1200 baud.
Oh, it does? Okay. I assume the micro color compact should have done the same. I think they went a little bit extra heavy on the sound here. They probably needed to, but
okay. I want to jump ahead a little.
Oh, you want to learn what pieces are in the machine?
Not really. Not until I get one.
I do like the fact they actually drew these little graphics to show like a tape recorder, a printer, a keyboard, the screen.
Can I get the soundtrack on the MP3 store?
I hear they're explaining how the keyboard works, like what the control button does, and and the shift type thing to get your symbols, and you can get your built-in commands and stuff. And then it starts explaining some of the commands like run, or how to do it with a single set of key presses.
And we have a warning about not searching for Alice 4K.
And why is that?
He doesn't go into detail.
I think it's better. One of those questions better unanswered.
Ah, okay.
Just don't.
So here's one where they actually got it. So they've actually pseudo put up a basic code and the results from the basic code, even though it's running within this demo program to kind of show it. You actually have to type run yourself to run it. So it's like I said, it's a bit of a mini tutorial as well as a demo thing. And it's cute. I did like it. Here's explaining. Actually did some pretty good animations here of some of the stuff like how bytes work with the bit settings and stuff too. That's pretty interesting. And this is literally what's happening inside your CoCo and your MC10. Just, you know, if you peer in with a magnifying glass, this is exactly what you'll see.
Like
Makes those same noises too?
Like there's a binary ad.
Yeah, now we're going to get a copyright claim from Disney for recreating Tron.
Here's how showing you how poke works and how it does not work with ROMs. Does this little animation, the guy trying to push a value into the ROM and it keeps rejecting it. I thought that was cute. The Nick's favorite VDG chip and how colors work.
Spell colors.
Here's all the connections on the back, so you know exactly which one plugs into what. I think this is where they do the explaining how bits and a byte work. And translating it to ASCII, which actually was a discussion on Discord recently for somebody who's just learning assembly. And you both get a pixel demo. This is exactly how P-Mode 4 graphics work, actually, too, and how the bit patterns actually set it up, too. So I'll let you guys watch the rest of it, but I thought it was a very good demo, very good tutorial / demo, I guess. And I don't remember seeing one that extensive on the real MC10 here in North America at all. So once again, a little bit jealous about the Alice besides the color. And that is the end of the news today.
Woohoo!
You can all wake up now.
So did it,
Good job, Curtis.
come in
Thanks.
a pack with the RAM expander?
Pardon me, Alan?
Didn't the Alice come in a big kit with the RAM expander already?
I think they did sell the original 4K version as well, but I think you could buy it with, you know, that suitcase that has all the
Yeah,
foam
so maybe
areas.
the demo was for that where they already knew it would have a RAM expansion.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Next up, Rick, project updates.
Oh, I want to mention before Rick shows his, Fred Provancha was going to try to come on to do an update on one of his projects. He texted me directly and said his bandwidth where he is just not feasible for it, so he's going to do it next week. Anyway, go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
And try it unmuted.
Okay, I can unmute and is my screen up there?
No, you're not sharing yet.
Oh, nope.
I
Was for a moment. There it is.
just highlight me. Yeah, my camera is me.
Oh, there we
Okay,
go. I see it. I see some bodge wires.
Yeah, when we last left, I was bodging this thing together, changing some of the PIA around, and it still didn't work. So the obvious solution, more bodge wires. So
Really?
yeah, so here's some more bodge wires. Color coded this time, which let me throw it into the CoCo and finally get it kind of doing what I want. So the backstory here is I want to put hardware and a ROM on the same card. So I need to strap cart to the Q clock to auto start the ROM. But then I can't strap cart to the Q clock because then the network chip won't work. So I had to do this little dance. So I seem to be done dancing, except now I don't get the ROM select that I expected to see. Obviously it's working. because the latch comes up. Okay, so here we go. My latch comes up, it makes the queue go for as long as I want it to. The ROM signal does happen because it turns the latch off and stops the queue clock. So now I'm in network card mode. But it doesn't ever come out of the gal to start the ROM. So I am now head desking on. It exists because it's using it here, but it doesn't come out here. Why not?
I hope you're not asking me that because that's the wrong guy to ask.
No, I'm just, it obviously works, but it isn't working. So that's where I'm at this week. Oh yeah, here's the actual thing. Yeah, so my latch latches up like it's supposed to, and it shuts down when it's supposed to, and the key clock stops going, and nothing.
And with that, the cat barfed.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm glad I'm taking care of your cat.
Are we getting firsthand news coverage of that barf?
All right.
Let's go live on
Mark,
location.
quick. Highlight Mark.
Mark Mosley, I have a solution for you on that. You should not let your cat listen to CoCoTALK because obviously it's causing it to puke every time it hears it.
I guess. Jeez.
Hey, Rick.
Oh, well.
Rick, do you actually buy bodge wire, or does the wire become bodge wire?
Oh, I have a big box of different colors of wire, so I can bodge.
Okay.
But is it Bodge brand Bodge wire? I think is what Ron is asking.
Right. I'm wondering if it comes that way.
It's Kenyar wire.
Right.
Kynar?
Kynar.
Kynar, I think it's out.
It begins with a K and there's a Y in it.
Well, sometimes I use magnetic wire. It just depends on what I got on hand at the time.
One of the times that Radio Shack went out of business, I actually got a whole bunch of basically wire wrap wire, which is the 30 gauge.
Yeah. Actually, you need this stuff, the genuine Kynar, because you can strip the insulation with the tip of your soldering iron, just drag it across the top of it. If you try to do this thing with very similar looking magnet wire, you can't get this enamel off to save your life unless you get out some sandpaper and start scraping. So
X-Acto knife.
Kynar.
Rick, one of the stuff I like using is Adafruit advertised a silicone coated wire, which I like because once you strip it, the silicone doesn't shrink when you heat it up, and it also doesn't melt because it's silicone. So therefore, it makes it really nice to get that very short piece of wire that you want. You can tin it. The insulation doesn't backfeed on you, so you can get that nice, perfect spot.
I have to play with that. I've got these working, but I'm always looking for a little bit easier. As you can see, I'd be making bodge wires.
Okay, and Brian's not here with us, so time for a segment of.
Actually, I've got one quick update.
Okay.
Working on Nitrous 90's View version 1.0.0 for release, hopefully by the end of the month. I finally got all of the Jim Gary OS9 games that he supplied, and one utility program that Ron DeVoe will be very interested in because it's astronomy related.
Oh, yeah.
And I got them all in there. I had to patch one or two of them, but basically that's all the source code's going to be included. They're also clickable icons. Launch them from the various things. I've got a list of them in the update docs. You guys will see. So there's about 15 programs, I think, in there. Some level 1 stuff, some level 2 stuff, some games, etc. So that'll be included on the upcoming release.
What else that you're not including that Ron would be interested in?
Well, you'll have to wait and see until the next release.
Me.
That requires a lot of patching.
I know. Well, you said you're not going to put it in there, so. Yeah.
No, I said, we'll do it eventually, but I have to disassemble the whole darn thing and all of its submodules and stuff to fix it. It's kind of like trying to fix Flight Sim 2 or the Sierra games. It's not just the main program I got to fix. It's all the little sub programs I got to fix too. So that's going to take a while.
Okay.
So eventually I will, because I do want to get it running, but it's, they did some cheating that they shouldn't have done.
It just seems like the most awesome thing to add. To me, anyway. But who am I?
You mean cheating like Cave Walker?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's Ron
or Interbank or.
Okay. Let's see. How about a segment of.
Yep.
Okay. That's all I have for you today.
Oh, Lordy.
You do have the
Wait,
actual garage
really?
door behind you.
Yes, I do. And you're actually in the garage. Yes.
Live streaming from the garage.
All I want to show you is a picture of this girl. Can you see her?
Yep.
Taylor Swift.
But you can't get tickets.
Oh, I thought that was
No,
the
you
missus.
No. Hey, well, thank you. That's pretty good for 96 by 128.
Yeah, it's the CoCo BGA version, right?
Yeah. Nice. That's about it. I don't really have anything much. This is a game Roger, not a game. It's a, Matrix thing.
Yeah, it's the one we talked about last week. So you actually
Yeah.
ran it and seen it running on your own machine.
Yeah, and in CoCo VGA, you can change the colors. I made it blue, and looks more like rain. And then someone else came along. I forget who it was. And he changed a part of the code, and I changed that, and it seems to run a little faster. Then I put my little screen on my MC10 to make it look like a laptop.
It'll fold down like that DT terminal that Terry was showing off earlier.
Yeah, just a little piece of tape will do. That's about it, guys. Nothing more. Just keep an eye out. You find stuff on there, and you can download pictures, whatever. Have fun. There's something that I'm doing that nobody else does in the whole CoCo Kingdom, is have software nearly every day that you can download, even if it's a dumb picture.
See, I gather all mine in a big burst and I release like EOU, and here's like 40 new
Yeah.
programs. Go for it.
Yeah.
And then Nick releases buggy ones. But anyway.
Okay.
My check to see if he's awake worked. He's not.
Well, that was
Anybody else have
everything.
any project updates or acquisitions? Or
Not I.
I know Terry's got an acquisition in progress, but it's not quite there yet. So we'll
Not
wait
quite
till
yet.
And I can't wait to see it.
Bring up eBay and
We're
show
all
us the
can't wait.
tracking.
Oh my.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I can't keep from laughing.
Good, Mark.
Are we ready for the outro?
Yes, please.
I think so, yes.
This concludes another episode of CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color computer, MC10, and Dragon systems. For all things CoCoTALK, visit us on the web at cocotalk.live. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to cocotalk@cocotalk.live. Consider supporting the show with a purchase of merchandise from our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, click on the Patreon link on our website, cocotalk.live. CoCoTALK would not exist without the community, its cast, crew, and contributors. Thanks go to Alan Murphy, Amigos Retro Gaming, Bill Noble, Brian Joyce, Brian Weaver, Curtis Boyle, D. Bruce Moore, Danny O'Connor, David Ladd, Eric Canales, George Jansen, Grant Leedy, James Diffendapper, Jason Reichert, Jim Brain, Ken Reichert, Ken Waters, Mark Bosley, Mark Overholzer, Mikey Furman, Mr. Dave 6309, Nick Marentes, Nick Marotta, Nick Marotta, Nick Marotta, Paul Fiscarelli, Richard Lorbieski, Rick Adams, Rick Hewlin, Rob Inman, Ron Delvaux, Samuel Gimes, Sloopy Malibu, Steve Bjork, Terry Steggy, Tom C., and many, many more. Please help support the CoCo community. A list of various contributors and resources are available at imacoconut.com. That's imacoconut.com. The original CoCoTALK theme song is copyright 2008 by D. Bruce Moore and Greg Sheeler.
The new CoCoTALK theme song is copyright 2020 by D. Bruce Moore. Both are mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. CoCo forever!
Okay. Now for a caboose.
Woo, woo. Okay, Frank, put a coffin on it.
Put a coffin on it?
How about a nail in it?
How
about it?
Okay, a nail in it and then put it in the coffin. How about that?
I think we're mixing our
Welcome
metaphors.
to Morbid Talk.
I think you're mixing your metaphors, David.
Possible.
Well, that's kind of like mixing my Dr. Pepper, water, and rum.
Yeah.
I thought that was
60-40,
called New Year's Eve.
right?
Or bathtub gin.
You mixed it 60-40, a point and confusion.
Where was Weasler this week?
Off
He was
collecting more
intending
stuff, probably.
to be on, but
Yeah.
I think work came up.
He's renting a semi-trailer truck and heading somewhere for another Coke collection, I think, or something.
I think he's hoarding or something.
He
Got
had
the hammer
to
down.
let Terry have his little moment in the sun. I think he's also very jealous that Terry got the egg vision
really?
and he didn't.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I have no idea, but
Whenever somebody finds something like that, it's in our group. It's available to
yeah.
us.
I mean, if Terry can bring it down to Coco Fest, we can actually see it in person. I'd love to see exactly what that blue shade looks like. I mean, like I said, I've never seen one of those in real life. I've seen Videotech's gray terminals quite often over the years, but that's one I've never seen in real life.
Thought about maybe taking it to, I think Lowe's or whatever has that color analyzer. Get an exact color analysis.
Yeah, because there's a few chips of it off on the curb there. You might be able to patch it up. So it's.
Yeah, I saw that.
Is somebody going to clone one? Then possibly.
Well, I think it's basically just the same as the gray one, just a different label and a different color for that specific sub-market.
I was thinking Tim thought the ROM didn't it have a different?
Well, just a different identifier because it was meant to be
Identifier,
tied
yeah.
to the farmers versus the general, business person
Right,
looking at the Dow Jones or whatever.
Did it only have one ROM spot on the motherboard?
I don't know.
I guess I'm not sure either.
Wouldn't
We'll
that be
find out.
interesting if it had two ROM spots but only one put in.
Harry would have to open it up and look at the motherboard to see.
Man, I hope that wouldn't ruin the warranty.
What warranty?
Does it have
Really?
warranty? Does it have warranty stickers on the bottom?
I don't know yet. The picture didn't show the full case on the bottom, so
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure yet.
Yeah.
Until he gets it into his greedy little hands, we won't know.
Wouldn't it be something if you could pop out that ROM and put a color basic in there?
I don't think it'd work because some of the hardware is a bit different.
Yeah. I
Like
think
there's a
you're
built-in
right.
modem, for example, that Coco obviously doesn't have.
Hmm.
There's no joysticks. There's no cassette interface.
But
So I
there's
don't know
a
if support chips
68
for some of that. Is there even a salt chip in it? I have no idea.
Well, there wouldn't be in a Coco one, but they would
Oh,
have
right,
the
yeah, that's
equivalent in op amps and stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, so I guess that's it for today's show. We'll see y'all next week. And
All right,
hopefully
till next
Terry
week.
will have his ag vision for display. That might be our head topic there. We'll deep dive into that sucker.
I'd also say happy Thanksgiving to the I guess the U.S. people.
Yep.
When's your guys'?
Yeah. Ours was last month. We
Oh,
try to
well.
do it before we get snow. Because right now I've got
You're
like a
smart.
foot of snow outside, so we prefer not waiting that long.
Thinking for
Well,
that.
well,
Well, we're
belated
okay
happy
here in
Thanksgiving.
Arizona.
There you
No
go.
snow here.
You have to go celebrate Thanksgiving on top of a mountain there, Ron. That's what you got to do when there might be a bit of snow. It'd be like Mount Charleston in Vegas.
All right.
All right, everyone.
All
Thank
right.
you for joining us this day on CoCoTALK. We'll see you next weekend. Please come back. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Y'all next week.